The tale kicks off in a remote sanctuary where two people whisper about the hero from another world, how he vanquished the Demon King in the blink of an eye. His sidekick couldn't stop complaining. Every time some new guy shows up from another world, they land with these insane powers, and it makes it way too easy to steamroll everything. Facing the evil god, he dies in his own world, so he can be reborn into a whole new one. Kiju Haruto, the reincarnated hero, fires off a furious question with rage blazing across his face. Did you really have to kill me just to boot up some new world? Seriously, couldn't you have just teleported me and skipped the whole, me dying horribly part? The god says this process feeds on pure negative energy, a vicious cocktail of fear and total, soul-crushing despair. Right here, he casually drops the real bombshell. This nasty curse he just slapped onto the hero's brand new life. Life traps him there. No matter how many monsters he guts, he's doomed to stay level 1 forever. No time to think, he launches straight into the hero's brand new life. But yeah, turns out the evil god screws up and by accident dumps him into a third-rate job. Then his partner freaks out, because they forgot to set a spawn point, and now the hero's soul is 1 second away from vanishing into the void. And the evil god snaps to it. He has to pull the reincarnation ritual right now asterisk, or he's about to get absolutely wrecked. With her heart racing, she snatches a dart and a target board and hits the ritual like it's pure RNG. She realizes, exactly like her boss demanded, that this hero is doomed to spend his life in chains. He whips the dart through the air, and it sticks dead center on the target like it was guided by fate, which leaves her absolutely horrified when she snaps to him that hitting that exact spot is, somehow, the absolute worst-case scenario. Cut to Keju's fresh start. He jolts awake in a cramped, pitch-dark space where he can't see a thing, yet somehow it feels weirdly warm on his skin. The moment he finally forces his eyes open, the sight in front of him hits like a sucker punch. He's completely shaken. A woman shoots him an apology, crumbling the awkward tension she'd caused and making sure he knows she didn't mean to make things uncomfortable. Kiju snaps awake. 5 whole years have already blasted past since his rebirth, and this lady he's been talking to, turns out she's his maid. With shaking curiosity, he clicks open his status window, and that's when he realizes. So his stats are locked forever, and leveling up is completely out of reach. Worn out from the late hour, he stumbles to bed, only for Tina, his maid, to climb in beside him like she always has before he ever reincarnated. Feeling the whole moment go awkward, he asked, "Can I sleep on my own from now on?" Tina's totally confused, because he's always loved having her around, and she blurts out, "Did I mess up somehow?" He can't spill the truth, that he's a grown man reborn in a kid's body, so he just keeps pushing one thing: "I want to sleep alone." She grudgingly gives in, then tells him, "If loneliness ever hits, come find me. I'll let you into my room anytime." The very next day, curiosity claws at him, so he opens her status window and sees that she's really level 250, something that blows his mind because she's just a maid in his head. And with that secret out in the open, she starts training him to boost his stats, only for her to miss the fact that his abilities are locked tight. He can't even explain what's happening, so he goes along with it, grinds through brutal training, trying to dodge the humiliating moment when people think he's weak. He fired off a basic attack spell that barely even touched his mana. Caught up in the moment, he starts blasting the same spell over and over, hammering it out in rapid, non-stop bursts. After blasting spells non-stop all day, he fully expected his mana to be drained to 0 by now. He checks his status, and there it is. His mana hasn't fallen even 1 digit. Right then it hits him. This curse that's been trapping his power has a sick twist. His mana never runs dry. Fueled by this discovery, he can't wait to get even stronger and square off with the evil god once more. Months later, Kiju and Tina slip deep into the wild, because this was it, his very first monster hunt. She slams down an ice wall spell, trapping the beast and shutting every escape route. Cornered with nowhere to flee, the monster snarls and barrels straight at him. After months of sharpening his magic aim, he snaps his focus, unleashes his fire spell, and smashes a perfect bull's right into the strange, horned, cat-faced rabbit. This is his very first time slaying a monster, and the aftermath hits him with a weird, unsettling feeling he can't shake. Back home, he slashes up that weird rabbit and starts cooking it into a killer lunch. While he eats, the memories of the hunt crash over him, and he realizes he hesitated, because it's been way too long since his last real fight. Tina's convinced he's been chosen by fate to rise as one of the strongest. She starts by spotting that the crystal targets she sets for his magic training shatter without effort the moment his attacks land. She can't believe it. His power keeps surging. even while that status panel stubbornly shows 0 numbers moving. She starts to suspect that he might be the legendary hero reborn, straight out of centuries ago. Video, knowing it's still too early to judge, she decides to watch his progress a little longer. 5 long years fly by, and Kiju Haruto storms into the Royal Magic Academy for the entrance ceremony. A young girl gets called up for her badge, but right as she's heading there, she slams into another student by accident. She blurts out a fast apology, swearing she just didn't notice them standing there. The rat-faced guy sneers at her and demands to know if she understands what those 2 white lines on his collar really mean. Far off, another boy cranes his neck and realizes she just stepped straight into something deadly serious. Right as he's about to unleash a spell to stop fate and save her, Kiju yanks his hand back just in time, cutting him off before he can ruin everything. Right in front of her, Kiju tells the girl he already apologized, and that starting any more trouble would be pointless. The rat-faced bully snaps at his cronies that Kiju is the son of a count, then orders them to haul ass and retreat right now. Once they clock who they're messing with, the bullies panic, step back, and slink away. Kiju leans in, reassures the girl, and tells her to tune them out, because not all nobles act like that. The boy turned to Kiju and thanked him, because Kiju stepped in just in time and saved him from the bullies. Because they're all freshmen at the academy, Kiju steps in, offers his hand, and pushes them to become friends. Shaking Kiju's hand hard, the boy thrusts his name out, Rook, like he means it. Just as the moment heats up, the girl cuts in, I'm Luna, and asks with perfect manners for them to take care of her. Kiju rolls up and invites his brand new buddies to his place so they can check out his house. When they finally arrive, his friends, who grew up in far humbler homes, stare in stunned silence at the massive, unbelievable size of his estate. Tina beams as she welcomes her young master's new friends, then totally blows their minds by casually admitting that Kiju has his very own personal maid. The very next day, they step into the Magic Academy for their first-ever lecture, and the adventure truly kicks off. They roll in together and freeze when they realize they're the very last students to step into the classroom. Then the kids start introducing themselves, one by one, so everyone finally gets acquainted. Lifa and Melody kick things off by introducing themselves and basically blurting, "We're ready. Let's work together with everyone." Next up, Ryushin and his sister Ryuka step in front of the class and fire off their introductions. Right after, the girl asks everyone to call her Yuka and promises all she wants is to be treated well. Trailing right behind her, 2 identical twin sisters leap in and introduce themselves, Mai and Mei. Right when Kiju is about to speak, thunderous footsteps slam outside and the door swings open, revealing Tina's the new homeroom teacher, and Kiju is left utterly stunned by the twist. Tina strides up to the students, slaps on a grin, and introduces herself, then announces she'll be their instructor. Some students can't shake the feeling that Tina Horrible's name is too perfect, like it was stolen straight from the legend of the hero who once led everyone against the Demon King. She straight up confirms it, Tina Horrible, the very one from the history books, and she's standing right here. Still doubtful, the whole class demands she prove who she is, somehow. Tina nonchalantly opens her status window, and boom, she's level 250, sending the students into instant panic because they just realized she's the real deal. She tells them she became a teacher because she had way too much free time, and then promises she'll drill them hard for the inter-class battle. Once the lesson kicks off, she needs to test every single student's magical affinity right away. Lifa takes the lead and snaps her magic on the instant she steps forward. She rips a bow into existence, then takes a deep, steady breath and locks onto her target. And she unleashes her wind arrow spell, blasting straight through, dead center. Next, the magic exam turns to the twin sisters. Get ready, because this is where things get real. Holding hands, they cast a spell so brutal the target crystal shatters into nothing. Ryushin trails close behind them, then snaps his dragon metamorphosis magic into action. With a snap of fury, he unleashes a dragon claw strike on a fresh target, and it instantly crumbles under the hit. Next, a student steps up and blasts her power. Watch as the shattered targets snap back to their original form. Kizu's jaw drops at the insane magic his classmates are unleashing, telling him the evil god's curse has him trapped at level 1, so all he can feel is raw, boiling frustration. The boy finally remembered he still hadn't told Tina he was trapped in level 1 by the curse, and as if nothing could wait, she restored the target and declared she was ready to keep going. Nobody had called her out as the next target, so Luna stepped in, offering to back her up with her magic. Luna fired off her buff magic, blasting Melody's magical power and defense way higher. Power surged through her and lit her up like a blazing signal, And with that boost, she finally went full throttle on her target. So the feline bragged that it was straight-up epic, the first time she'd ever gotten a jump this massive. She felt raw power roar through her veins, then she unleashed it, driving her momentum into a punch so fast it blurred into a sonic boom. Fueled by every boost she had, she tore through the magical target and obliterated it. The whole class was buzzing nonstop. Melody and Luna are basically the ultimate power duo. Tina burst in and said 8 of them had already flexed their magic, so now she wanted to know which of the last 2 was ready to start the show. Haruto caught a weird vibe. His classmates were throwing on the toughest flexes, and he was already itching to get in there. Right as Haruto was about to blurt out, "I'm next," Rook jumped in, claiming he'd take the stage. He swore Haruto got his magic from Tina, so that had to mean he was insanely strong and that he should go last. They didn't see it coming, though, because the guy was still level 1. One thing, Haruto stayed cool and told Rook to go first. Then Rook called forth Hope, and the Thunder Destroyer hammer erupted into existence. "Take my magic as the sign you're part of my pack, and swear yourself to me. Unleash your power right now," he roared. Then he unleashed his ultimate thunder move, and that strike blasted the target so violently the ground around it split apart. Lifa leaned in and asked Tina if that magic Rook just pulled off was truly mythical. Tina nodded and said the kid's full name, Rookville Iflis, was the grandson of President Luano, the top dog of the academy, and one of the rare few in the whole world who can actually wield mythical magic. Meanwhile, Haruto was sinking into a funk, stuck on one thought: how on earth was he supposed to even keep up with that act? Tina warned him, "Don't show everything. 30% is already more than enough," because if he pushed past it, he'd smash the entire training room to pieces. The other students couldn't stop staring, so she told everyone to go all out, then singled out Haruto and begged him to hold back. Even Rook's mythical magic came out vicious, yet it already had built-in limits, so now everybody was desperate to find out just how strong Haruto really was. The protagonist figured Tina would hand him some puny target, like she knew he could only throw low-level magic around, and she was trying to spare his feelings about being the weakest. If he slammed that target, everyone would swear he was leagues ahead of them, using only 30% of his power. He decided he had to go full throttle to take out the target and still act calm, then told everyone he couldn't control his power perfectly, but he'd try. Tina stepped in and said she'd boost everyone's magical defense for safety with. He starts with 10 mana and blasts out magical flow again and again, 10 MP each time, until 5 seconds slam shut, stacking to 100,000 MP. Then he incinerates everything into pure fire without wasting a single drop of power. So I had to ask if that was really only 30%. The boy shook his head, saying she'd nailed the role, and if they wanted real attention, they'd need an explosion. Then he'd crank his magic power up 1,000-fold and lash the spear's tip with darkness and thunder. All that was left was to rip the brakes off his power, and then he hurled his fire spirit straight at the target, and Tina blurted a scream as she tried to stop him. Just minutes earlier, Yuko was stuck in the heroine's room, staring at a mind-blowing special classroom stuffed to the brim with all kinds of awesome stuff. Yukosama bolted out of class, hunting for answers only for... But a brutal explosion ripped through everything and cut her quest short. She spun around and froze too. Everyone else stood there, stunned out of their minds, staring straight at the blast. Once the smoke finally cleared, you could see that there was. Tina staggered into view, battered to the bone after the explosion. Haruto blurted out a quick apology, but she exploded into shouting, insisting she told him to burn only 30% of his power. And he was damn lucky he managed to shut his magic down, because if he hadn't, even the Central District would have been in serious trouble. The boy insisted it's usually fine at home, but Tina cut in like, "Nope, I've spent ages crafting magical barriers in that mansion." And she could barely survive the blast of his magic. Every single one of his classmates stared in awe and worried at the same time, because the way he dominated was downright unreal, since even the sensei at level 250 could barely hold back his overwhelming magic. Tina snapped that she'd have to clean up the mess first, and once everyone was sent away, she'd catch up with them later. The students finally caught on and bolted for the exits, and then Tina. Tina grabbed Haruto's attention and told him to stay right there, again. Again, the boy rushed out an apology for going too far, and she snapped back that she'd already warned him not to dump all his power. He started to say, "You." She seriously thought she was about to bite the dust. Like, without that, she'd be completely toast right there. Tina's always-worn stone pendant is pure magic. She told me it springs a defense spell the moment her life is in danger, but once it fires, it can't do it again. And that's when she realized it. Someone super important had sent her that gift. Then the boy rushed over, apologized again, and swore he didn't mean to go that hard, but he'd do whatever she asked as long as she. When he said that, she shot back, asking if it would really be something or just talk. When the boy said yes, Tina lit up and swore she wanted everything to go back to the way it was, right down to sleeping beside him again. And the boy leaned in and asked her, straight up, if that was really cool with her. She shot back a yes, and if she could, she wanted a hug too. The protagonist grinned and said, "For me, it's totally fine." She flashed a quick thank you and bolted off at full speed. She lunged in and hugged him immediately. She admitted she was absolutely terrified of everything that just went down. Haruto apologized again, pouring out his regret, and then he gently ruffled her hair like he was trying to soothe her heart. In the boy's arms, her world warmed up. His body felt like a cozy blanket wrapped around her. At night in her room, Tina leaned in and told him it wasn't just about today. They'd sleep together forever. Then the MC leaned in and demanded, "Why? How did a heroine end up becoming my maid?" She told him, "If we're really going to talk about that, you'll probably end up sleeping in a bit late. Are you cool with that?" Haruto nodded yes, and couldn't wait to hear every last detail of her story. With skills like that, she could have easily been bought by the kingdom, especially if the boy's dad had the money and clout in this world. But nope, none of it was enough to get her hired. Tina told me that ages ago she tagged, along with the heroes who crashed into their world from another world, only to take on the Demon King. But out of all those heroes, there was one she liked way more than the rest. He wasn't the most important in the group, but every time she heard monsters were smashing villages, she'd bolt straight out to help. He was the only one who lit a spark of courage in everyone else, pushing them to stand up to the monster hordes. But he couldn't bring down the Demon King. Still, in her eyes, he was a total hero, and she kept being by his side so long she didn't even notice her heart slipping deeper and deeper, until she started loving him with everything she had, because the rules of that world meant the heroes would get ripped back to their home the second they sealed the Demon King, so she figured they didn't care a lick about the people left behind. Yet he still listened and carried out her wish. Haruto leaned in and demanded to know if she was that person's lover. Antona shot back that their relationship never even reached that point. He figured she must have never had that kind of experience, felt a pang of guilt, and then quietly admitted he was kind of relieved too. She kept going, saying those incredible moments finally slammed shut the moment her crew defeated the Demon King. The boy asked if the heroes could even decide whether they wanted to stay in that world, and she told him, straight up, that he fought tooth and nail to make it happen. But it sure looked like nothing could change. Haruto even asked her if she really was the great-granddaughter of the old hero, and her servant didn't hesitate. Yes. Then she added that her grandpa ditched their line and came back to the original world, and that's just how this world plays its cards. Then the boy finally got it. Everything he broke earlier was actually part of the protective magic stone the hero left behind for her. Tina swore that one day, out of nowhere, someone with magic just like his burst into that world. And that's why she couldn't shake it. She was sure Haruto was the hero reborn. She was convinced that had to be his magic power. At least, that's what she believed, while the boy kept apologizing like he'd done something wrong. She demanded to know if he was truly reincarnated, but warned him he wasn't the hero. And sometimes she can't help wondering, why isn't it him? But then she just keeps thinking, why me? But she'd been watching him for days, seeing him grind through training again and again, until the hero she remembered started to blur right into the boy standing in front of her. Before she could even brace for it, she froze, because it was him back from the dead coming home. But now her heart only ached for Haruto, so she leaned in and asked if Tina was really feeling okay with him. She pulled him into a hug and told him, breathless, that she felt absolutely amazing. He grabbed her hands and swore he'd get stronger, so he could protect her in that world, then leaned in and asked if they'd be together from now on. Then Tina grinned and promised she'd stay by his side forever. In that world, this boy's dream was simple: become the most powerful person alive. Even more powerful than the hero who crushed the Demon King. And just like the one he loved, he vowed to grow strong enough to shield her and save the world. The very next morning, Tina burst in, yanked the window open, and shouted that breakfast was ready. She slid up to him and asked if she could, and Haruto froze, utterly confused. Then the moment kept dragging on. With trembling steps, she leaned in and pressed a kiss to his lips. That cursed power locked his leveling, but he didn't stop there. He still had a ton of moves left to make. Tina admitted she was brand new to all of this and begged him to look after her from here on out. The boy was buzzing with one goal: boost his strength and make the world finally see him as a wise man. A level 1 sage at the peak of strength would rise up as Tina's hero. The two tore into the academy super early, and the boy couldn't stop buzzing from the chaos that hit him earlier. Then he demanded to know whether the wrecked land was finally getting fixed, and someone told him the workers sealed it up that very night. The Count of the Silvery House sent over some insanely skilled dwarves. Haruto's watched them come. Tina blurted that she had a huge meeting and could barely sit still, while the boy sank into deep thought, because everything was already spiraling the moment the story kicked off. Thanks to Tina's brain, he soaked up a ton of knowledge, and now he can whip up magic from every element. He just prayed the nobles wouldn't stick their noses into this, because if they discovered he was only level 1, he'd have to scrape by somehow, no matter what. Clout or no clout from his family, he was ready to grab whatever advantage he could, because now he had 2 goals to chase. Yuko stayed right on his heels, praising the magic he'd used yesterday like it was straight-up epic. She stared in disbelief at how brutally strong his magic was. Then he leaned in and asked how long she'd been there, and she admitted she'd been cooling off there even before he ever showed up. The boy cornered him and asked if Yuko was in the training area yesterday, insisting he never caught her once. No magic in sight. She fired back that he'd already witnessed her magic, so what was she supposed to do right as she was getting started? She asked him if he'd noticed how nobody even realized she was gone from the practical class, then told him she could dial down her presence. That was her magic, so the boy asked, "Then why can't people spot me?" And she said her magic is a little too advanced, and that's exactly why it shrugs off physical damage, because only a rare few can even pull it off. The boy couldn't help it. He blurted out why her tails were giving off this weird, powerful magical aura. Demanding to know if he could see her tails, he swore he could see every detail of them as clear as day since yesterday. Then she snapped into a combat stance and growled that he wasn't supposed to see her tails, and that he'd be in trouble for it. And with no other option left, she grabbed him and took him out herself. Then the boy finally clocked it. She was dangerous in a way that couldn't be ignored. But he wasn't some average guy, especially not with her power right now. There was no way she could beat him. Then he leaned in and told her, "If you want to keep this secret, I won't." He still wouldn't spill until his mind snapped into place, and he realized he had no choice left. She lashed her tail around him, trapping him in a tight embrace. He flipped his tail up, kissed his own hand like a dramatic bow, and said, she told him she was forging a contract, then slammed a magical seal onto him like a final warning. The boy stared at Yuko and thought, if she keeps flexing that magic, I don't even stand a chance. After she was done, he leaned in and demanded to know what she'd been doing, since he couldn't move freely anymore. Yuko snapped back that he had it all twisted, because the truth was the opposite. That master-servant contract they just signed meant she was the one serving him. The nine-tailed fox is a demon that supercharges by stacking magic into its tails, and it can even swap into a human body, so people fear it for the chaos it unleashes as it grows. The girl admitted she joined the academy just to farm magical power, and since she's got brainwashing magic, once she's stacked enough, she'll take control of everyone inside and turn the whole place into her personal base. Haruto clapped a smack across her head and snapped, "What the heck are you talking about?" Her face burned with fury as she hissed that taking over that academy was just the beginning, then she stopped and kept going. Then one day, the whole world would quake in terror under her power, and Haruto would be pushed to answer. "Are you ready for our domination journey?" Again, he swung his slap across her face to beat those wild thoughts out of her head. Yuko demanded to know why he refused to rule the world, even with all that power. Then she leaned in and promised that if he teamed up with her, that whole world would be his, one day. Right after the evil god summoned him, the boy only had one goal: get strong in this new world. So her words hit him hard, because without that curse, he might have fallen for her. He leaned in and told her straight up he had zero interest in world domination. He wasn't the demon king at all. He just wanted to be a hero. Then Yuko leaned in and demanded, "So what did you just say?" She leaned in and asked the main character, "Do you want to be a hero?" And if, when he spotted her tails, he didn't feel tempted to grab the magic locked in them. And that's why he still hadn't said a word to the sensei yet. She was blazing through the conversation. Then, right in the middle of it, something suddenly sparked in her head. And dizziness hit her hard until she finally crashed onto the ground. She started getting hit with flashbacks of her past, this gorgeous fox, stranded and alone in a world of humans. The moment he spotted her, this night-tailed fox, greed lit up his brain and he bolted after her like he could already count the cash. She was terrified, and that fear was about to drive everything that happened next. He absolutely despised humans, especially heroes. These were the heroes who showed off their powers the moment they caught sight of the nine-tailed foxes and wiped them out instantly. He snapped at the boy, screaming that it was their doing too, that they'd been turning the foxes into slaves since they were just kids. Haruto pats her head and says, "I get it." And he makes it crystal clear, his goal isn't to exploit her powers. Yuko fires off a question about the contract they just signed. And the boy shoots back, saying it's pointless. No contract or not, he still wouldn't hurt her, so he tells them to just cancel it. But she fidgets, glancing away, and admits she can't. With someone that strong guarding her, she had no choice. She had to forge a magical link between them, sparked by one of her own stories. And because that link is insanely strong, she can't break it. Yet the boys insist he'll shatter it anyway. Yuko snaps back that tearing the contract could wreck her and tells him point-blank not to try. He demanded to know what kind of contract this was, because it screamed unfair to her, and the details kept whipping through his mind like a storm. Yuko will obey his orders, right up until they start putting her life on the line, because then it's... But the need to protect Yuko kept surging stronger and stronger in him. A few minutes later, Rook barges in and immediately trips over a seriously weird scene. Haruto gently scratched Yuko's head as she lounged in his lap, then he told her, "Everyone's about to show up, so scoot back to your spot before they arrive." Yuko shot back that if her master gave the order, she'd snap right back to her spot and just like that, Haruto snagged a sweet, obedient demon pet, one that could unleash real, natural disasters. And when he stepped toward Tina, she instantly sensed something was way off. Before the boy could even explain who was creeping behind him, she snapped and ordered Yuko to get out of the protagonist's body. And the girl insisted it was the sensei's job to feel her presence, even without a contract. Tina thanked her for the compliment, then pressed her for answers. Why was she tagging along? What was this contract deal even about? And then Haruto just spilled every last detail, tearing open what really went down. He storms off, leaving his servant fuming, because Yuko isn't some normal girl at all. She's a demon wearing the boy like a disguise. With that, Tina cracked her knuckles, started powering up her gift, and the fox girl watched, ready for what came next. This girl swore she was 100% loyal to Haruto, and he snapped back that he wouldn't let her cause trouble. Then he told Tina not to hurt Yuko. The servant snapped that he only wanted to protect the fox because of that contract, and the girl immediately begged her master for help. Then he told her to chill, promising he'd take care of everything. Our boy leaned in and told Tina, "I don't have Yuko's contract seal, so that thing's got no grip on me." When he checked his status, he saw the curse was still clinging to him, and he knew that contract wasn't working the way Yuko thought. Then the MC kept going, gushing that the fox girl was so adorable it lit him up inside, like protecting her was the best feeling in the world. Next, Haruto leaned in and fired off instructions to Yuko. Even if it embarrassed her to death, the girl still snapped to attention and obeyed right away. And just like that, he leaned in and told Tina that Yuko was totally obeying his every order. The woman said she'd follow his orders, but it still doesn't stop her from turning around and attacking or brainwashing someone else. Then the boy leaned in and told Yuko straight, unless she's specifically given the go-ahead, every harmful attack on humans is a hard no. With that settled, he'd stick by her non-stop. Any moment he wasn't busy, he'd keep watch and make sure she stayed right by his side. But if Tina wasn't at school, it would be risky to leave a demon hanging out at the boy's side. And Yuko's a girl, so things get even more complicated. So if she sticks by him every step of the way, his innocence won't stay safe for long. The fox girl saw this coming for sure, but Tina, the heroine and her master's servant, was still ready to get caught in the fallout. So because her master is the boss's son, she never dares to stand in his way. First, she needs to pounce on the knight and use her charms to work her magic on him. He's got himself a real troublemaker, because she's got cheek and she knows exactly how to use it. When night finally fell, Tina slipped into the MC's room to sleep, then froze when she saw Yuko tucked in his bed and demanded, "What are you doing here?" Yuko said, "It's safe," then snapped back asking why Tina was there and whether she was planning to hook up with Haruto. The heroine nodded yes, and the fox girl burst out furious, calling herself his school teacher and insisting this was super naughty. Tina shot back, asking if that was the real reason she couldn't sleep with the boy. Haruto told them to calm down, herded both of them into bed, and made sure they got their sleep. Tina crumpled onto the floor, and Yuko lunged straight into the boy's arms, scratching against his skin like a cat's claws. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, the boy even invited Yuko to crash with them. Night vanished in a blink, and when morning finally crashed in, Tina was already up, whipping up breakfast like she couldn't wait another second. Haruto and Yuko were in full fox form, curled up together so tightly they looked like one ball of warmth. She couldn't even work up anger about it. A few minutes later, Yuko burst into the kitchen, bouncing with curiosity like, "So what's Tina cooking up?" Tina showed Yuko what she'd been cooking and shoved a taste into her hands. Then Yuko took one bite, and the second her mouth hit that flavor, she swore this was the most mind-blowing thing she'd ever put in her mouth. Tina said that was the boy's absolute favorite dish. And once you got the hang of it, it practically made itself, so easy it felt unreal. Of course, she told Yuko that if she wanted, she could teach her how to whip it up any time. Yuko's eyes lit up, and the fox girl immediately said she was 100% down for cooking lessons. Tina leaned in and asked, "Can I help with chores too?" Because she'd be staying at their place a lot more. Tina tried to explain what every kitchen tool did, then reached for them, and you what? Yuko was all over the place, snapping that she didn't have time for this right now. Then the rest was cut off mid-*F. The fox girl shoved the last bite into her mouth and finished her dish. After one bite, the flavors detonated across her tongue, and Tina practically beamed. She blurted that she'd teach Yuko how to make dashi next time. Yuko practically bounced out, grinning that now she could go grab tamagyaki anytime, and that she was finally going to lock in on egg skills for real. She even wanted to show her master, hoping he'd toss her some big props. Then she demanded Tina tell her where her master was, and whether he was still snoozing, before cutting her off with a sharp glare and Tina. He said he should have already finished his run by now, so yeah, he's probably out back practicing magic. It's been his daily grind since he was 5, training hard day after day with zero mercy. Thanks to Haruto, she had to grind her way through rewriting the defensive magic night after night. So now there's a rock-solid barrier sitting right over that property. He's a total workhorse, and that's exactly why she's head over heels for him. Yuko admitted she'd probably like him even more now. While they were busy chatting, the boy finally showed up, and the girl bolted to grab the food she'd slaved over for so long. He asked if Tina was teaching her, and she snapped back that she couldn't just sit there doing nothing and let it slide. He took a taste, his eyes lit up, he blurted that it was incredible, and then the girl. Totally hyped, she told him she'd share every single dish with him. And just like that, his house opened its doors and pulled in one more member for the fam. A few days later in the living room, the sensei dropped the news. Class battles are locked in, and they'll clash in just 3 days, with their opponents being the 7th graders. Everyone was rattled and scared because the seniors were about to step in as their opponents, and nobody knew if they'd even survive what was coming. Tina said it was totally chill. Since it was still one-on-one, she figured their skills would be able to stand up to the seniors without breaking a sweat. She kept insisting, over and over, that every single one of them was stronger than they looked. So the 5 fighters picked for this showdown were Lifa, Ryushin, Melody, Rook, and Haruto, 2 teams already bracing like the match was about to explode. One of the opponents snapped, asking why they were chilling in such a fancy room as first years, then started whispering that the Count's kid must have been leaning on his dad's connections. Rook said those were the boys who'd been messing with Luna on entrance day, and Haruto shot back that they might have shown up just to get revenge. Then they couldn't help but wonder, just how powerful were the 7th graders really? Haruto realized their magical powers were dangerously weak. He cornered his classmate and asked how any weaklings like that even made it to 7th grade, and the guy nodded like, "Yeah, I feel the same," saying it was totally wild for someone at that level to act that way. Then Haruto finally clocked it. If nobody was actively casting magic, only a sage could sense or even see his magical power. Meanwhile, the girls grilled each other. What happened to Luna? Why is she turning so pale? Then she tried to steady herself, but fear shook her hands, and the tea spilled all over the place. And on entrance day, the girls finally got the full picture of what just went down. Lifa even told them, "If you're not feeling right, go straight to the infirmary." Luna jumped in, promising she'd stay right there. Because she didn't want to run from anyone, she wanted to face them all herself. The moment the boys spotted the elf, they grinned and told her she was lucky, because he was about to make her cry with every move. By the time the first years hit day 1, everyone was already fed up with them. Then they announced that both classes, vanguards, had to rush to the arena too. To hype up her teammate, Lifa leaned toward Luna and asked if she was feeling that restaurant they hit the other day. And she told him, "Once I win this match, we're celebrating right there, so keep your eyes peeled, got it?" That match was about to light the whole crowd on fire, so the gym was packed wall-to-wall with people itching to watch it go down. Nullity straight up asked Ruchin if their opponents were tough, and the kid grinned, saying they'd wipe the floor with the 7th graders. But when the 7th graders came up, the girl admitted her worry was creeping in. But after she took on the teacher's gargoyles, she realized guys like that weren't scary at all. Rook snapped at them not to slack, because the enemies could have been cooking up some shady magic and pulling off wild tricks. Lifa nodded and told the whole crew to stay on their guard, then promised she'd drop one of them first. Haruto promised he'd pour everything he had into it. And that's exactly how he ended up cheering for Lifa long before the battle even kicked off. With the standoff fully set, the boy challenged her to come at him, bragging that he'd proved the whole fight was pointless. Lifa shot back, asking if she was being underestimated, like that guy thought he could just relax and coast through the first attack. Then the wind began circling Lifa in a roaring storm, and a brutal wave of magic crashed into the air. Haruto clocked Yuko pulling up and waved her over, bragging that he'd snagged a seat right beside him. Then he glanced back, and there was Mai on the railing, staring at the fight like she couldn't believe it, calling out that letting Lifa charge up magic like that was straight-up kinda dumb. And she snapped, asking if their rivals had any common sense at all. Thanks to Lifa's wind, the girl surged forward, stronger than ever. The girl stumbled and lost her balance at the worst possible moment. The moment she stumbled, the boy lunged forward and caught her in his arms, saving her from a nasty faceplant. But as he held her, he couldn't shake the weird feeling. She was shockingly light. They locked eyes for one wild second, like the whole world stopped. A real tension-filled vibe started to rise. Then May swooped in and cut it all off. May yanked her away from him. I started telling him the boy only grabbed her because she was slipping, and me snapped that her sister was acting totally off. She thanked the boy for saving her sister, then warned him not to get too comfortable with her. Meanwhile, inside the battle arena, Lifa was laser-focused, fully locked in, ready to unleash her magic. The chubby guy spiraled out of control, firing question after question at her. What was this magic even supposed to be? He couldn't let her do her thing, so he jumped in and started prepping his own magic. But Lifa didn't let him breathe. She knocked her explosive arrow and fired it before he could react. He pushed through the barrier just in time, scrambling to throw it up before it could crush him. But it still wasn't enough, so they shoved him harder and shoved him back. He got tossed out of the arena like a broken sack and slammed into every one of his classmates. Lifa destroyed his pride with a single strike, and the humiliation hit him like a truck. And the girl was already shaking, bracing for whatever chaos hit her next after that brutal beatdown. Then Tina burst out laughing and admitted that, while everyone else was battling the gargoyles, she still had to grind her way through keeping the barrier standing. And that's exactly why she never saw it coming. The magical barrier her instructor friend set up couldn't stop her student's magic, because he immediately snapped back, saying he wouldn't buy it. It was an attack that blasted him out of the arena, and it broke the rules. But then the referee slammed in and declared the rules were clear. You can't attack from the outside in, yet the other way around is fair game. Nobody saw the teacher's barrier get shattered by the competitor's magic, and once every 7th grader was knocked out, the victory instantly belonged to the first-year students. Someone yelled that the 4 who got nailed weren't even players at all, just spectators watching the match happen. The instructor from the other class shouted Edgar's name, only to realize he wasn't even supposed to be inside the game. He leaned in and demanded, "What's going on? Why do you need to call me?" They told me that the golden-haired girl dropped all 4 of the fighters in the arena, one after another, with zero mercy. They asked, can the match keep going if we swap in a player? And the first-year team nodded like, yeah, we're good with that. They asked. If Edgar was itching for a fight, he still shrugged and said, I'm just a little sleepy, but I'm ready when you are. In the other class, Tina lit up and praised Lifa's insane magic and those epic moves, then promised she'd cool down and let Ryushin take over. Meanwhile, Lyafa nearly burst from the fluster, hitting her like a wave from the teacher's compliments. Ryuka leaned in and told her brother, even if I bite the dust, I'll still win, because I'll drag you back to life. Edgar lines up against Ryushin, and wow, Ryushin is a beast up close, trading blows like it's nothing, and Edgar's surprise entrance just blasts apart every single one of Tina's carefully laid plans. Right when the next competitors had to step in, Ryushin grinned and promised he'd end it in a flash, just like Lyafa. The student council president leaned in and asked if he even knew Edgar. Then he reassured him it was all gonna be chill and that he'd strike at the perfect moment. Edgar swaggered and claimed he almost never loses to anyone, but then that dude. When the battle announcement blared, Russian froze, totally baffled. Like, what in the world did that even mean? But come on, he had to put on a whole performance for his class. Quit stalling, my classmates. There's zero time for that nonsense. He stormed toward his opponent, determined to finish it all right there once and for every time. Edgar slammed a barrier into place to protect himself. He couldn't believe how wild Ryushin's speed and power were. After that move, he left himself completely exposed. He blindsided Ryushin from behind, slamming into him without warning. He slammed down hard, and because Draconians can take a beating, it was awesome that he didn't hold back. Then boom, just like that, the winner was announced. Edgar. They yanked Ryuka to the medical room for recovery magic, and she stormed off, convinced the boy was reckless. Haruto lunged in and snapped that Ryushin wasn't careless, and the girl shot back that if that was true, she'd comfort him the moment he woke up. Tina jumped in and swore that Edgar was a top-tier student at that school, and that he was even on the student council. The protagonist fired a question at Melody. Could she take down Edgar? She said she might read his speed, but the moment she realized she didn't know his other spells, that was a huge red flag. Luna stared in awe because nobody could crack his moves, and right then Tina called out to her. She claimed it was her turn to go, and the girl froze in total confusion. Melody charged into the third battle, convinced that if Luna powered her up, Edgar wouldn't even get a chance to counter. His classmates weren't sure whether support magic could punch through that barrier, and they didn't even know if it was legal in a one-on-one fight. Tina said it was class combat, and it'd be cheating to leave the fighters to sweat it out alone. So if they're from the same class, then support magic is totally fair game. Game over, Luna knew Edgar's the real powerhouse. I figured it was a genius move to dump all her strength into Melody. Because the boost hit so hard, she almost started wobbling on her feet. Edgar squared up to the hyper girl radiating pure energy. He wondered if she carried some rare magic, but deep down he just wanted to make it through and crash at home. Nobody bothered to warn her that she'd get revenge for Ryushin. Then he fired back, saying her class wiped out the first-year reps. Ever since the first years got handed support magic, they've been copying it too. Boy. Roy cornered Rain, the student council president, and asked if he'd spotted that trick. He just said there's nothing worse than Edgar getting manhandled while that guy's support magic drags him along. And then a girl chimes in that the match is basically over already, because teachers can't jump in during class competitions, not even if support magic is involved. Melody couldn't stop thinking about just how fierce Luna's support really was. She felt that power surged through her, and her movements started snapping into action even faster. The moment the fight erupted, she was already primed to blow the whole thing wide open. She bolted forward and unleashed a flying punch straight at the boy. Punch, she lunged in and he snapped up a barrier to stop it, but as he tracked her hits, the truth hit him. This wasn't just speed, it was a fist pressure technique. Distracted for a split second, he stumbled, then slammed straight into the ground. Melody refused to let it go. She surged in while he was down, but Edgar snapped aside and sprang back up like he'd been powered by rage. He dodged every blow just by tracking her movements, and that idea hit her like a surge of power. She snapped her left arm up fast, catching him completely off guard. Then she barreled straight at him, ready to make her plan work. For some reason, the old man's barrier snapped again, and right then, Edgar burst out of the ring. Melody shot him a question, "What were you really trying to pull on, Dodger?" And he just said. He told her he'd gotten a little magical backup too, and now he could move twice as fast. He taunted her, daring her to join in for a little game, like the taunt itself was an invitation to fight. Taunt lit a fuse in Melody's chest. She snapped, spun, and charged straight at him. He shot right at him, unleashing a flying kick. The strike slammed him dead center, and he crashed into the wall with a brutal thud. To her shock, Edgar suddenly appeared right beside her, blurted that it must have hurt like hell. Then she realized it was all just an illusion. He praised her for nailing it, then joked that she had some seriously heavy little feet. Because the second they all realized she was moving like that, nobody had the nerve to start panicking she might slip and disappear in super speed. The boy snapped and said he was finished, claiming he had absolutely zero mana or stamina left, and that he couldn't push forward another step. The judge grilled him, asking if he was truly quitting the match. Edgar snapped back, yeah, because he couldn't live with himself if he won by cheating. Rain pounded down on Connie as he watched the fight go down, and the judge realized with a jolt that there weren't any students left willing to jump in. He wrapped up the match and declared that Professor Kina's class had snatched the win. Melody pressed the boy for answers, grilling him hard on why he quit and threw in the towel. He swallowed his pride and apologized for holding back, admitting he didn't go all out against her. Meanwhile, Tina blurted out an apology to Haruto and Rook, who got left behind. Still, they couldn't hide the fact they were hyped for Class 1. Rook cracked a joke, saying that even if he'd fought, there's no way he'd ever have stood a chance against that guy. Rudo snapped that if he fought, he'd finally test a few spells he's been dying to try, but he couldn't shake the dread that they might not even work. Rage burned in him. Seventh-grade teacher stormed up to Edgar and demanded to know exactly what he'd done. He warned that if he asked to surrender, they'd make him pay, seriously. Rain strolled over, and the teacher snapped at him on the spot, demanding why he was even there. He said it coolly. His secretary had something wildly interesting captured on tape. He waved the instructor over, demanding they come take a look. It was rock-solid proof that Edgar's shady moves were the reason that battle ended the way it did. He begged the teacher to swear Edgar didn't lose that fight and promised he'd deal with it himself so the kid wouldn't get hurt. The boy looked Rain dead in the eye and said he didn't owe him a single thing. Leafa kept her eyes on them, and as the memories hit, she realized she'd seen that guy somewhere before. Tina swore you must have caught him during the older students' opening ceremony speech. He was their class rep. He was also the strongest kid in the whole school, no joke. Haruto even asked if they could have beaten the council president's class back when he was in his first year. Tina was freaking out with excitement. She said they would have crushed it no matter what, and then she told me. She leaned in and told the boy, "Don't worry, I'm about to cook up more exercises so you can level up fast." Rook was locked in deep thought about Haruto because he wasn't just curious. He was trying to challenge the student council president himself. The very next day, Melody sat there lost in thought, because in January, she'd finally gotten accepted to the Magic Academy. Then she spent the entire month tearing through training fields and throwing down with older students. While she was drifting off in her own thoughts, Luna suddenly popped in and beamed, wishing everyone a good morning. Then she teased, "I've got a little surprise for the whole class today." Nobody even bothered to ask what it was. Luna slid the chocolate into her hands and grinned. "It's Valentine's Day, and from this moment on, we're besties." The moment Melody clocked that it was Valentine's Day, she completely lost it. She panicked and blurted out that she completely forgot. Because in this kingdom, right in the second month, there's a special day where girls hand out chocolates to their friends and crushes. The heroes who got pulled in from another world didn't just show up. They dragged back fresh treasures from their world, shook everyone's life to the core, and even made it possible to recreate food cultures as long as they had the same ingredients, turning food festivals and events into a whole new craze in that world. Nobody wasted a second. They sprinted to catch up, and Luna and Haruto just stood there, totally confused, staring at her like, "What the heck is going on with you?" Luna seized the moment to be alone with him, flashed him a bright good morning, and pressed a box of chocolates into his hands. Then she told him it was her way of thanking him for saving her during the entrance ceremony, then admitted she slipped in a little extra for him, just to keep it quiet and low-key. He thanked her with a grin and said he was over the moon. Then it hit him. He still hadn't picked up the chocolates from Tina yet. Right when May and May arrived, Luna pressed chocolate into their hands. They thanked her, but the chocolates had them scratching their heads. Then Luna cut in and asked, "Wait, don't you girls even know it's Valentine's Day?" Haruto's jaw dropped. He had no clue Valentine's Day was even a thing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were miles away from that world. Yet somehow their bodies still burned with this strange, weightless light. And then he started to wonder, were these two even human? After Luna laid it all out, Mai blurted to her sister that they owed the boy chocolate. Then her own sister snapped back hard, saying they owed him nothing and that the protagonist already knew it, while Haruto just couldn't wrap his head around why Mai wouldn't give him the time of day. Then Tina showed up to teach, and just like always, the whole class was absolutely buzzing that morning. She lugged in a rich chocolate cake, ready to share slices with the students, and then Melody burst back into the classroom with steaming hot chocolate, handing cups to every single one of her classmates. Tina thanked the student, grinning, and told them it was exactly what they needed to finish the cake. While everyone was busy devouring cake, Leafa bit into her slice and uncovered a shiny gold coin, and the sensei made it clear. There was only one coin hidden in the whole cake. And it was her lucky coin, pure luck wrapped in steel and fate. Leafa practically swore she'd keep it forever. Haruto practically fizzed with excitement. Those summoned heroes skipped out on Valentine's Day and chose that world instead. This is the perfect moment to cram in wishes and chocolates, hand them out to your friends and crushes, and level up those bonds for real. And then right in that moment, it slammed into him. Tina totally shut him down, no chocolate for him. Even back then, he still managed to land a win every single morning. He figured Tina being a teacher meant she'd be fair about the cake sitting right in front of the entire class. And since they were at that stage where they'd already kissed, he figured trusting her to have something sweet planned was a no-brainer. Daylight dragged its feet, Then night crashed in, and Haruto was finally ready to hit the ground running. That's when Tina burst through the door, swung it open, and asked for a quick chat, apologizing for the delay and admitting it took her a minute to cook up a secret technique. She told me that in the hero world, body chocolate is a total must-have, like the perfect special treat for your boyfriend. She admitted it felt a little awkward, but still, this was their very first Valentine's Day as a real couple. Red-faced, she tugged at her master's attention and demanded, "Did I nail it?" "Haruto," she added. Pluto's eyes lit up with pure joy as she exclaimed that she totally crushed it. Tina's face lit up the second the boys approved, and she practically ordered him, "Dig in." Then the moment she said it, the next part kicked off. And that's how a hilariously awkward scene exploded into existence. Then Yuko tore through the door and shoved her chocolate cupcakes in everyone's faces right as she was about. She caught sight of the scene and her whole body locked up, frozen like a deer caught in headlights. She froze like She panicked and demanded to know what was happening, while Tina snapped back that maybe she never learned to knock. But Haruto? He was just vibing, grinning at the chocolates he scored this year, all of them ridiculously tasty. Meanwhile, inside the Ifris Magic Academy in one of the girls' dorm rooms, the place was dead silent. Everyone just stared in shock as she realized she had no moves left. The game had barely started, and this was the first time in her whole life she'd ever laid eyes on a board full of pure white pieces. Luna said it's crazy rare to actually see someone lose in that game. They kept replaying it on loop, and nobody bothered to tell Luna to pull her punches, even as she was getting absolutely wrecked. The very next day, Luna pulled Haruto aside and spilled that she'd invited Melody over for a sleepover. She wanted to see if fun could shake her gloom loose. She told him they played a game, and Melody went, "Don't hold back," like she meant it. She did it, but the moment it landed, doubt hit. What if she'd gone too hard? Now the girl felt completely useless. The boy then leaned in and promised Luna, "Don't worry, I'm sure Melody will get it." Luna isn't just a board game whiz. She's a walking spellbook, brimming with magic knowledge, and she can crack even the toughest questions like it's nothing. Yushin and Melody aren't exactly book smart, but their real skills and raw physical power make up for it completely. Now that he replayed it in his head, he realized something wild. Every single person in that class is seriously interesting. Meanwhile, in the student council room that same day, a first-year student he's the one who can wield divine magic. He's the director's grandson, a support magic ace who interns at the library, a top-of-class A prodigy, an elf who wiped out 5 guys in one go, and even the beast girl. She was the ethical one's weapon, the fighter he used who blends magic with martial arts. Rain's assistant shoved every scrap of intel from the first years straight to him, and the whole situation kept getting wilder and more fascinating by the second. Especially since the whole class is taught by the legendary heroine, Tina Horrible. He told Connie to keep digging and come back with more details, then pointed at that pile of sweets and stuffed animals and ordered him to donate it to some orphanage, under the academy's name. In the first-year classroom, Yuko proudly declared that she was her master's loyal servant. She flashed her status card, demon and slave, plain as day, and Luna's eyes went wide in pure awe. This girl was level 99. Then she shrugged like it was nothing, saying they could just relax because she wouldn't do a single wild thing without her master's orders. The girl couldn't even wrap her head around what wild was supposed to mean, and then Yuko hit her with the truth. Her specialty is brainwashing, and if the girl wants, she can use her magic to take control of anyone weaker than her. Rook and Ryushin were totally fine with it, because one was level 120 and the other was already level 150. Lifa was level 80, and that made her a perfect target for Yuko's brainwashing, while Haruta stayed cool inside, secretly grateful he locked in his contract with Yuko before she could pull any tricks. The whole class started blabbing their stats. Then Ryuka, level 62, and Mai, level 62, along with Melody, level 60, had everyone locked in, hunting for levels that matched theirs. Luna gushed that everyone was amazing and bragged her own level was just 52, while over in the corner, Haruto was absolutely not having it. Ruka admitted her level was low because she was stuck support leveling as a healer, way harder than it sounds. Yet somehow she crushed the grind and slammed straight to level 50. Everyone in that room was absolutely losing it, hype after hype, telling her, "We've got your back always," and pushing her to believe in herself even harder. Luna told everyone she could finally study without fearing brainwashing, all because Haruto had her back, and Yuko burst in right after. "We've got to give that boy some serious props." Even though he hadn't really done anything yet, he still said he was stoked to help them out. Then under the surface, he was freaking out about having to prove his skill. There's no way he could have hidden that, not with everyone constantly checking their statuses. He hadn't even gotten the chance to tell Tina about his curse yet, so he decided it was finally time to let the cat out of the bag. Then he'd finally snap out, apologize to Tina for hiding it from her, before raising his voice and blurting that nope, his level is actually. Rook snapped in, claiming he didn't need to prove his status, or maybe he just couldn't stand the sight of it. Before I ever stepped into the academy, I truly believed the only person stronger than me was my grandpa, the academy director, until I met Tina, who was stronger than him, and Haruto, raised by the heroine. Then I realized I'd been dead wrong. Seeing the boys level up like this might shatter him, but he's not done yet. It's like the next punch is still loading. But he had no idea. He was totally wrong, and the truth was way farther off than he could have imagined. Lifa jumped in too, backing Rook hard. Like, imagine some non-hero has a higher level than Tina, that would be a total gut punch. When they asked, everyone in the room started blurting out that they didn't want to see the boy's status. The boy just spoke up, and man, relief hit hard when he said he finally understood where they were coming from. Sometime later, in the supervised training yard deep in the Hagen forest, the whole class was about to kick off. Rook grilled the sensei, asking how she even got approval to let a first-year class into that forest, because that place usually stays locked until 5th year, and Ryushin wasn't the least bit worried. He just needed to know what monsters were coming for them, and whether his classmates were itching to run a competition to see who could stack the most kills. Lifa lit up and told them that idea was sick. Then she suggested teaming up, and Luna chimed in, saying she could back them up. Rook pulled her in, asking her to be his partner, and she said yes instantly. Then Ryushin and Ryuka stepped up and teamed up too. Lifa called for Melody, and the moment she answered, she was all in, ready to team up and go. Mei and Mai teamed up and forged their own unstoppable duo. Yuko promised she'd stay right by her master, watching him like a hawk. With every pair ready, Tina grinned and declared they were about to kick off today's training in the Hadain forest. She had faith they'd be okay, but she still fired off a warning, don't let your guard down. She shoved whistles into their hands and barked, if anything goes sideways, blow these, then I'll swoop in and handle it. She even slipped them a bracelet, an enchanted tracker that counts every monster they hunt and climbs their ranks right along with it. That's what gave them the edge in the competition they cooked up. Haruto leaned in and asked if she was already plotting a competition. Tina snapped, yeah, and her own excitement shocked her when they actually started tossing the idea around. She said hunting monsters in that forest wouldn't level them up at all, but teaming up for the challenge would pour in way more experience, and the competition would keep going until noon. Clapping her hands, she exploded into action and kicked off the competition, like the battle had just begun. And the moment their targets were locked in, everyone sprinted after them like their lives depended on it. Haruto and Yuko were already way past the starting line when she leaned in and demanded, "So, are we taking out monsters already?" The protagonist grilled Yuko, "Does your brainwashing magic work on monsters too?" And Yuko snapped back, "If they're low-intelligence monsters, it'll work for sure." He sighed, "Then we're talking forever just to hunt down those kinds." He leaned in and promised, "I've got a plan." He blasts the air with a swarm of glowing light balls and swears he'll build it all from fire. He throws in extra tricks to crank the power up, and the girl freezes, stunned as the flames twist themselves into a living animal. It looked like it was about to end as a horse, but it refused to stop there. The boy layered lightning magic over his armor, turning it into near-impenetrable protection. He wanted his spear to hit like lightning, so he wrapped it in wind magic. Now their very own fire spear was finally forged and ready to light the world on fire. Yuko was almost certain this wasn't just some horse at all. It was a high-level flame knight, plain and terrifying. The kid snapped yet another fire knight into existence, then roared for them to charge and smash every monster in their path, right in front of them. He looked at Yuko and said, "See, now we've got 2 weapons." For once, everything felt calm. She couldn't stop worrying and blurted, "Are you okay? Because you just dropped some insane high-level magic." She leaned in and handed him some of her mana, so generous it practically lit up the room. Through the bracelet, Tina told everyone they were still in class, and once the word hit, every single bracelet user froze like, "Wait, what's going on?" Tina told everyone, "For safety, I can see everything happening through these bracelets. So if anyone pulls anything sketchy, you're getting suspended on the spot, and your evaluations drop to a big, ugly 0. On the far side of the bracelet, Yuko was boiling with rage. Every time she tries to get close to her master, Tina suddenly shows up and destroys her chance. I warned her, if she slipped that bracelet off during class, she'd be getting no dinner at all. For Yuko, missing out on Tina's bomb food felt like torture. That's how the others clocked it. This convo wasn't about anyone else at all. It was all about Tina and the two of them, Luna. Luna muttered that it felt like a split down the middle, and Haruto just casually said he'd grab chocolate from both of them. Rook shrugged it off and said, "Come on, it's gonna be rough for you, since you've got Haruto in your head too." She panicked a little and blurted, "Was it that obvious?" The boy just shrugged and said the only person who never noticed was Haruto himself. Rook told her she had to be disappointed. She didn't get matched with Haruto, and he couldn't hide his excitement. He was thrilled he'd landed as her partner. Haruto even told her he tried to help her out on the very day she made it inside. A little shy, she admitted she should have handed him chocolates too. Just as they were gossiping about their classmate, a wolf suddenly crashed into the scene. The girl warned him to stay sharp, and the boy shrugged, saying those monsters won't strike unless you go poking them. Deigning time there felt pointless, because those wolves weren't real at all, just props the class used to trick everyone. She felt something was off about the wolves, leaned in and warned Rook that something was wrong, then shoved the boy's speed into overdrive. So fast he caught the wolf's movement like it was in slow motion. He slammed up a barrier just in time, stopping the creature's brutal strike. Then the thought hit him. Was this class actually training him or just messing with him? He snapped at Luna to brace herself for what was coming. Moments later, a loud thud ripped through the air as something slammed down on the ground. Just when it looked like everything was done, he snapped a quick glance to the side. Between the trees, he caught sight of a whole cluster of eyes, all locked on them like they were hunting. Magical bulls burst out of the trees and charged straight toward them. Seriously, you don't see something like that in a place like this. They were top-tier monsters with insane magic resistance, and Rook swore there weren't many in this forest. Then a whole herd hit him, right in front, wolves all over again like the ones that tore into them earlier. Melody spun her trap with bait, yanking every last monster into chase behind her. Leafa steadied her magical bow, drawing back for a massive shot meant to wipe them out with one brutal arrow. They halted, whipped their heads around, and just like that, a pack of ugly monsters was all around them again. Rujin was absolutely fired up, charging headfirst and battling every monster that dared to step in his way. Every time he dropped another one, he erupted like it was pure victory. His sister snapped at him to watch closely, because something here felt wrong, not even remotely normal, and they kept piling in one after another, and they couldn't afford to slip for a second. Class was right there, and she admitted she wasn't sure she'd have the manners, or the luck, to bring him back if this run went bad, and the duo still marched forward anyway. Duomai and Mei was roaming the forest when a bad feeling crawled over her, and Mei blurted out to her sister, "Sis, what was that?" Rage, no, a demonic vibe, kept crawling over my skin, and then I realized it felt way more like Ifrit's Sama's aura. Mei demanded why the king of fire spirits was showing up in a place like this, and Mai snapped back that the aura felt dead on, actually even hotter than Ifrit's. So the two of them kept arguing whether it was the real deal or just a trick. Tina leaned in, watching through the bracelets. Then her gut twisted as she spotted something seriously off about the monster's movements. In the middle of it all, she suddenly felt it. Something beyond the forest was messing with them. Every animal snaps its attention upward, staring straight at the sky. Above them, a shikigami hovered in the air, serving the evil god like a silent weapon. She could feel the mana of the one she was hunting, like it was pulsing right under her skin. She's definitely out there, somewhere deep in that forest, hiding in plain sight. She looked around and realized this place was packed with serious muscle, and she prayed Haruto hadn't gotten out of hand. Before the boy reincarnated, she even cornered the evil god and demanded to know what curse he was about to slap onto whoever got sent into that world. Her master warned that even if she reduced him to nothing, it would still take a ridiculous amount of mana to reincarnate him, and then slam a curse on that scale onto his soul. He couldn't shake the fear that the reincarnated one would get knocked out too soon, because losing them early would be a huge blow. So he ordered the Shikigami to hunt down someone who matched the exact requirements hidden in the cursed shelf. No matter how terrifying and sinister that evil thing looks, it's still a god. And when people get pulled from other worlds, they don't just survive there. They become heroes, blessed with incredible physical and magical powers. His assistant was buried in the library, furiously combing through every single curse. But if he tried it alone, it would drag on forever, no cap. So he churned out a whole army of clones and made them devour every single book. A little later, he hurled a fixed status curse at the evil god, and the guy laughed, claiming it was way too basic. She said it was brutal to dig the curse out of hiding behind a safe on a shelf, so yeah, This evil god must have been packing something seriously dangerous, because there were so many curses swarming around him that he couldn't even keep track anymore. She hit him with, "If you're trapped at level 1 forever, isn't that a total bummer?" Then she made him imagine the reincarnated one finally meeting Dodd, getting all hyped, only to instantly slam into despair, and she swore it would be a wild scene. But here's the twist they never saw coming. This curse wasn't hiding for no reason. At that exact moment, the evil god was scrambling to slam a curse onto someone and force their max level to take the hit. But then everything went sideways. Somehow the curse flipped into a blessing, because once their status numbers were locked, the cursed person could use every single bit of it they wanted. The evil god hid the whole thing away, ready to drop it on some minion, and after ages he straight up forgot the curse even existed. But to claw back the lost mana, the evil god collapsed into a long, crushing deep sleep, because that curse ritual demanded a brutal, heavy price. While he dozed, the Shikigami went for long-range magic to track the reincarnated one. But she couldn't spot him anywhere, not even a flicker, and panic crept in as she started to wonder if he'd already bit the dust. But because no next hero had shown up yet, it was pretty clear he was still alive. Her long-range shot fizzled out nothing. Then she snapped, "Wait, is something messing with me?" And as that thought hit, she stared at the crystal ball, and after what felt like forever, it finally lit up and answered. Now in the real world, Tina was about to explode, right before the next moment hit. Their bracelets blared warnings to every student, class was canceled after an incident, and they all got shouted back to the starting point. She said the monsters in the forest were acting totally off, and she warned them to keep their eyes wide and their guard up. She warned them to stay far back, because the next thing she'd unleash was long-range magic, and it was about to hit hard. Then Tina bolted straight to the spot where the Shikigami had just torn into the scene. She demanded, "Who are you?" and instantly understood those forest monsters were getting their orders from that person. Rage and courage thundered through her veins like fire, screaming that this person was tied to the evil god Tina was about to take down. In the blink of an eye, the teacher blasted forward. He lunged toward her, yanked her by the arm, and demanded to know what she was doing. Before she could even open her mouth, Tina snapped into action and launched an all-out attack. Every single student watched a brutal explosion rip across the sky, lighting everything up like daylight. To Tina's total shock, it backfired hard. When the smoke finally cleared, that Shikigami stumbled into view, straight up blurting that she'd been caught completely off guard. Guard tight, then Tina snapped and said she wasn't holding back anymore. As the little one scrambled to get words out, Tina slammed her with the Thor's hammer ability. While the evil god was finally nodding off, the Shikigami was meant to watch that guy like a hawk. But she did nothing to the monsters, and still they came for her, leaving her staring at the sky like, "Why is this happening to me?" And even if some way somehow it was her fault, she still could. She couldn't bail, so she fought back, trying to counter the tap Tina. But the heroine was already miles ahead, back when it counted most. Tina sprinted after her, closing the distance to strike. Shikigami could feel it in her bones. Maybe the real reason was fate, pushing her toward becoming the next evil goddess. And if she kept this up, the god of creation was totally going to notice her. Right in the middle of the chaos, she caught sight of the boy sprinting below. And that was it, she knew he was alive. She burst up to Tina and blurted like, "Doesn't it feel like a total relief having someone as strong as you right here?" She told her, "Don't let a single harm touch that boy," and then slipped him away as her tiny farewell gift. An explosion ripped through the area, whipping up a thick, choking cloud of smoke. Before anyone could even blink, a monster snatched Tina by the face. It began to drop, yanking her down with it toward the ground. As the screams tore through the air, Haruto snapped his eyes up in horror. He spun around and found Tina pinned, trapped by that monster. The one who bolted to her side was Ryushin. He was there in the blink of an eye, charging straight at that unknown demon. He lunged at the creature to rip his sensei out of danger, then froze, because what the heck was that thing? But when the boys finally got a good look, the demon wasn't nearly as speedy as it had been acting. He kept hammering at it, barking at Lifa to cling to the sensei, yet she wasn't ready. The girl shoved the sensei's cue to Melody, demanding she take it and hold on. With wild agility, she sprang through the trees and lunged to grab Tina before she slammed into the ground. She shouted at Ryuka to fire off her healing magic, because Tina was seconds from passing out. Ryuka blinked hard, still trying to decode whether she'd just fainted or lost something even scarier. The moment it clicked, she screamed, "Bro, behind you," and warned him that whatever it was had poison packed inside it. Then it finally clicked for the boy. Tina's sudden drop wasn't random at all. Luna yanked out her support magic and slammed the boy with a serious power-up, jacking up every stat, especially his defense. He had to strike the demon fast, all while staying just far enough to stay safe. He had to hold on, because if he didn't, they'd all be done for. On the day of the class showdown, right after Liffle got slammed in his duel, he stormed into the infirmary to check on Edgar, and rage was boiling in his veins, because Edgar got him wrecked for nothing since he threw in the towel. After that, the girl snapped that while he was knocked out cold, Haruto fired back that Ryushin wasn't weak at all, then straight up called that 7th-year kid a total beast. Lifa couldn't believe it. She never expected a Draconian to get that kind of loud respect from a human, and she was over the moon that Haruto had recognized just how strong he was. In the heat of it all, Russian realized this wasn't like the other fights. This was different. The enemy was brutal, but he had to throw everything he had into taking them down. He snapped forward with everything he had and unleashed those brutal dragon claws. Yuko witnessed the full force of a draconian power. Yet somehow, even with all that strength, the enemy was still a demon. After the hit, Ryushin roared to Luna, thanking her for the support. But they couldn't ease up for a second, because their opponent was brutal, and even with backup, he was mowing through mountains of mana with every dragonization he pulled. He snapped at them to grab Tina and bolt before it all went south. Then Haruto snapped at him, warning that something was sneaking up from right behind. The crowd gasped in pure shock as the demon abruptly rose, radiating a terrifying, spine-chilling presence. Now Yuko was finally 100% certain. She knew exactly who she was up against. Rook snapped his lightning ability into action, whipping chain after chain to trap the opponent shoved him into motion. Ryushin, get out of here fast. When the Draconians dragonize, their bodies harden into something unstoppable. And if he's the one who can handle that power, then who else is even left to face the demon? The boy couldn't stop wondering. When the demon ripped himself out of the chains, Yuko screamed that his mana had blasted straight through him. Mei and Mei suddenly shot up. Standing there, from far away it looked like they were just watching a brutal brawl unfold. I straight up asked if it was cruel to sit back and chill without helping, and even after they considered jumping in, I decided they should just keep watching for now. Then I blurted out that if Haruto couldn't handle it, forget it, no way this is worth signing a contract with him. Her sister clocked it instantly. She said Haruto with a little warmth in her voice. Action, and ever since that training field got absolutely wrecked, she'd been doing it. Yeah, she was completely bewitched by the magic he wielded. So from that moment on, she started calling him Haruto-sama. I blurted out to her sister, am I being too harsh on Haruto-sama? And they both admitted the same truth. This man really made a contract with a 9-tailed fox, and it's straight up wild. He could whip up flames so powerful, they felt downright unreal. I told her that if she signed a contract with him, she'd become something epic too. With her head bowed, May muttered that her sister could only say that because she'd never once made a contract with a human herself. Then I hurriedly apologized for pushing him that way, swore she'd never pressure him into a contract with Haruto, and admitted she knew. This time, he needed to choose wisely. This time, Mai was always glued to Mai. So when Mai warned that sharing the same contractor would be cruel, she flat out didn't buy it. It was kind of lonely, but watching her older sister light up, like, for real, was proof that she could stand on her own. May snapped that everyone was in real trouble, and that they needed to run help right now. Then Mai's hype hit full force, and she blurted out, we have to do that for real. Right before they could leave, the dogs caught something weird in the air, and they exploded into non-stop barking, pure panic in every bark. I leaned into her sister and warned her. Something huge was coming, radiating power on par with Ifrit's. Maiden Vibe burned with flames like Mai did. Only now she realized how brutal that power getting closer was, and then the thing pouring out that wild, insane aura showed up right in front of them. That was Haruto's doing, the flame knight she conjured, and when she laid eyes on it, she couldn't help but gasp at how stunning it was. Racing ahead, because that fire was unbelievably pure. Just like that, he disappeared out of nowhere, right in front of their eyes, leaving them stunned, begging to know what they'd just witnessed, because it screamed high-level magic. So I took her sister's hand and told her, come on, let's go see what's going on. Because if this magic was linked to Haruto, she'd demand he forge a contract with her on the spot. And if Haruto was using water magic too, Meek could stay glued to her sister's side forever, because that's exactly what she wanted. No matter what they tried, it was hopeless. She was the only one trapped, the only one who couldn't break free. Meanwhile, Ushin was still brawling hard, trading blows with the demon the Shikigami had unleashed. He was so powerful that even the boy's draconic skin couldn't hold up and started to crack. Got absolutely sliced, and then he came in like a blur with his attack. He launched another brutal attack, and in that wild strike, he chopped the boy's hand clean off. When that hit finally landed, the boy felt the demon's poison slam through him like lightning. Rook is racing to save his buddy, no matter what it takes. He yanked his light-width ability into action, yanking himself clean off the battlefield. He snapped at Haruto to hurry up, because everyone in that place knew they were done for if this kept dragging on, and yeah, it sucked to say, but he didn't have the firepower to fight that demon. He told her, if Haruto's got power, then right now is the moment to unleash it. But the protagonist panicked. He was scared to use his magic and accidentally blast his friends. Then something suddenly erupted under the demon. Demonized ice magic erupted, snapping straight into freezing its legs and arms. Up on the cliff stood the two sisters, Mei taking control of the magic, while Mai spiraled in panic because she still couldn't find that flaming horse anywhere. And then right before their eyes, Mai and Haruto were left completely stunned. Shock, then the blazing knight tore into the scene to go face to face with the demon. And not just one, two of them, because the monster is about to get the fight of its life. Lightning fast, the monster shattered the core in a single night. Then it tore him out of existence and left him gone. And that other arm that got ripped clean off the night before was already snapping back into place, regenerating like it couldn't care less. It was nothing to worry about. Yuko said they had to smash that demon's core too, and if her master went all out, that thing wouldn't stand a chance. Tina jolted awake and demanded, "What the heck is going on?" Yuko promised she'd hold her energy back and only unleash two tails. But if it was for her master, she'd unleash a storm of mana like it was nothing. She shoved everyone into the barrier she'd spun up and told them to let Haruto handle whatever came next. She finally gave the boy the green light to go all out. But first, Tina leaned in and asked him for a favor. She swore his opponent was a demon and warned him weak magic wouldn't stand a chance. She said demons are pure evil, so deadly they could wipe out a whole small country all by themselves. And even worse, they can regrow lost limbs in the blink of an eye. To crush it for good, you'll need to unleash a brutal pile of firepower. Just blast straight through its core until it's nothing. So he had to go full power, because if he didn't, everyone would get hurt. Last time Tina told him exactly how much power to use, he ignored her, and everything spiraled out of control fast. So he couldn't afford another mistake. He'd obey her every command to the letter. He was determined to blow every last ounce of power until he met her expectations. He gathered raw power and unleashed a super spell meant to slice straight through the enemy. The Shikigami tore toward the temple, where the evil god was still lounging in the shadows. Chills crawled up her skin again. Nobody came to greet her, just like always. And yep, she still had to scrub that absurdly massive temple and patch every broken spot, one painful fix at a time. Then he crunches the negative energy numbers, tallies the costs, and starts plotting the design for the next Demon King. So much to do, and she had to juggle every single piece by herself. She couldn't help but stare, so the evil god could juice up just by sleeping, and it was downright terrifying. Out of nowhere, the demon she swore she'd left behind detonated, blasting against Haruto and his crew. She was so psyched to finally get out that she didn't even think. She just fired off a demon. Game, she let out a breath of relief, because she finally knew she wasn't wrong. She somehow shut down a demon, and still found the strength to protect that person too. She was convinced there had to be a monster-level strong fighter hiding in that place. The demon got crushed, but now the forest is blazing like it's burning alive. Now Yuko's barrier was seconds from breaking, so they had to blast the flames out, fast. Haruto lunged toward the flames to knock them down, then grabbed Yuko's attention and begged her to hold on, just a little longer. Rook caught the boy's eyes and demanded, "You okay?" after he'd blown through so much magic. Because of an evil god's curse, the MC got slammed with a cruel limit. Any spell that demanded over 10 mana was completely off limits. He started flinging sets of 10 mana into the air, molding the energy into letters and symbols to carve out a glowing magic circle. And he hammered at it non-stop until he finally carved a magic circle packed with about 1,000 characters. So dense his friends couldn't even tell if they just witnessed low-level magic or something way above their league. But honestly, it was just beginner spells piled up one after another, because he only had 10 mana, so that's all he could manage, just to summon someone who could finally blast that fire out. Then he roared and summoned the Spirit Undine into the world. When she finally showed up, her eyes locked onto the boy, and she blurted out that it felt like forever since they last hung out. He nodded and admitted it had been 3 long years, then leaned in and asked if she was doing okay. Undine told him she was fine, kinda, but the truth hit hard. Without him texting back, she'd been feeling painfully alone. The spirit locked onto May the second she appeared, and when it saw her, it realized the girls weren't strangers at all. Haruto couldn't believe it. These people actually knew each other. London pressed them, asking why the twins were in the human world and whether they'd found anyone new to make a contract with. One of them swore, "We still haven't found anyone yet." May asked Undine if she'd struck a contract with Haruto, and when she nodded yes, the boy burst in shouting that they had to rush in and put out that fire. May usually stayed in her own little world, but that boy yanked her out of it, because she was a water magic pro and he needed her help. Haruto demanded that Lifa pull off the spell she crushed in that class competition, and he told Undine to back him up, because once he started blasting water, she had to fan it out. Yuko was already maxing out everything she had. Holding that barrier in place was brutal work. Dude, he and Undine teamed up and charged straight at the fire. And boom, she whipped up a fierce gust of wind, supercharging the boy's water magic. He leaned in and told her to unleash a few more of those wind bursts. Undine called in even more storm clouds, but her flames raged out of control. She never thought her rain could possibly put them down. She yelled for backup, May. Then May turned to her sister and begged her to share her magical power. Together, they blasted ice crystals into the air, and the sky swallowed them whole. They just kept churning out ice non-stop, then packed it up and stacked it up there. May grabbed Haruto's hand and ordered him to fire into the sky, because her sister was out of magic, and they had to heat the clouds fast. But he still had to step in and keep Undine's water magic surging. Then it hits him, he snaps and summons Ifrit to jump in and help. May stared in awe, absolutely blown away. May was a die-hard Ifrit fanatic, and she couldn't even process it when Haruto landed a contract with him. Then she got even more spellbound by the raw, epic power he was unleashing. Now she finally understood exactly how Mai felt the moment she met him, when she even considered making a contract with Haruto-sama, knowing it might mean she'd have to leave him behind. May froze on the spot when she heard herself call him Haruto-sama. One dude was hating every second of getting drenched, while the other was grinning like it was the best thing ever. Going back to her real self while everyone around her stared just felt weirdly cringe. Now she had to cool off, because there was no way in hell he was letting Haruto slip out of reach. Word about what went down in the forest slammed into the student council room, and the fact that the academy couldn't even sniff out a demon lurking on campus became a full-on nightmare. So they slammed the brakes and froze the afternoon classes. At that exact moment, Tina Horrible's class was the one using the forest, and Connie the secretary reported it. Then Rain shot back, "Is anyone hurt?" Only to be told no injuries at all. Only a few battle scrapes, but the bigger picture was clear. Everyone came out standing strong. The president leaned in and demanded, was it really heroine Tina who took down the Connie admitted they still didn't have the full story on the demon yet, but one thing was certain. It wasn't her who delivered the final blow. It was Haruto the sixth Silverly who crushed the demon. He was the third son of Count Silverly. Edgar burst in like, "That name sounds familiar." And then he snapped his fingers. Yeah, it was the same guy who'd blown a massive hole in the school's training field, forcing his parents to foot the bill for the repairs. Connie told Haruto she'd been summoned to the principal's office for a serious talk. The MC couldn't believe it. Rook's grandpa showed up out of nowhere. When Tina rolled into the office, the protagonist practically exploded with relief. She was really okay. The old man leaned in and told Gerudo, "My grandson won't shut up about you." Rook had always stayed one step ahead of his classmates, so good, so skilled, that he never even bothered to level up the natural talent he was already sitting on. He'd always tried to balance things out, but lately, thanks to Haruto's killer vibe, he finally got the inspiration he needed to start practicing magic for real. He thanked the boy for sticking by Rook as a friend, and for choosing him too, like he'd finally found someone who understood. As he gripped the boy's hand, the old man's eyes narrowed, because the kid didn't just lack power, he only had one single level. Haruto figured out his mana level too, of course. That's what a magic academy teaches. Tina shot back, saying it was nuts, even by academy standards, to speak to the kid like that. He threw out a reckless apology, but the boy shrugged it off like, "It's cool." Deep down, he already felt it. Someone was gonna figure it out sooner or later. He begged the principal to keep the rumor mill shut about what he was about to say next. The man tells the principal he doesn't have to pry a secret out, because that academy understands every kind of student, and if he decides to share, he swears he'll keep the tea to himself. Then Haruto bows to the principal and says he wants Tina to know too. He yanked open his status page the moment he stood right in front of both of them. Tina was absolutely rattled. Surprise of surprises, that boy was still stuck at level 1. That's when it finally hit her. She understood exactly why he'd been tossing those weak spells the whole time. The principal snapped to attention, clocked the curse sealing the boy's status, and demanded to know if that was the secret he'd been hiding. Haruto said the curse pinned him to level 1, because when he got reincarnated, an evil god struck and twisted him into what he is now. Tina couldn't stop wondering if the evil god that forges demon kings and unleashes chaos was real, or just a scary bedtime story. The boy quickly apologized to Tina for spilling the truth late. Then the principal stared at him and demanded to know why the evil god cursed him in the first place, only for the boy to reveal that, before he ever reincarnated, the evil god swore he wanted the next reincarnated kid to be a complete nobody in that world. The principal admitted it actually went the other way because that kid truly wiped out the demon, and then the boy snapped back. No, I think the evil god messed everything up. He leaned in and asked if he could pour a little of his magic into it to make it crystal clear. He heard it explained better, and the principal ordered him to do it in the garden. So Haruto snapped at the principal to keep tabs on his status, especially that man's account. Then he hurled a fire spell, and to everyone's shock it actually worked. He didn't lose a single ounce of control. Then the boy grinned and swore that no matter how much mana he spent, it never dropped a bit. Tina leaned in and demanded, so that's what the curse does. That's when the boy admitted he once thought he'd be trapped at that level forever, until now, when he's starting to wonder if the evil god botched the curse. Then the principal realized it's infinite and never runs out, but he still snapped. How in the world does he have enough mana to wipe out a demon? So the boy jumped straight into it and started casting his magic. He said first he blasts a storm of cheap low-level spells that cost 10 mana or less, then he fuses them together to crank his power up, like he's mixing fire magic and dark magic in the same breath. The principal stared in disbelief, asking how Tina managed it without a single spell. Then Tina hit back. That's why he's so terrifyingly powerful. The boy boasted that when he smashed the training field, he blasted the equivalent of 50,000 fire lances. And then, right after, he finally admitted how hard Tina had to work just to shut that magic down. Magic, she shrugged and insisted she hadn't done a thing, like the magic stone was the one doing all the work. So yeah, since Haruto's a reincarnated guy from another world, it's not shocking he's strong, but now it hits different. He's way stronger than the normal version. Normal, the principal tore into him, demanding he don't lose control, and after they finished talking, he stood outside, waiting for Tina. Sighed, she said the principal told her he'd step in and do whatever he could. Then Tina finally admitted it. She wasn't protecting him out of kindness, but because if he messed up, he'd put the whole school in danger. After that, her mood crashed, and she quickly apologized. She told him she'd been with him the whole time, yet never once saw the curse, and she can't even begin to picture what he endured, because thinking about it leaves her feeling completely helpless. Haruto grinned and told him, hey, turns out not everything in this life is that brutal. Tougher than ever, because he had the best teacher in the world shaping him. Because of her, he finally cracked the code to synthesize magic, and mastered the art of firing off shots at lightning speed. And through all of this, he's clinging to one dream, staying by her side and relying on her help forever. From far off, Connie clocked a strange vibe between Haruto and Tina and blurted to Rain, tell me you feel it too. Name, he shot back that the legendary hero. Tina stands in front of that boy like a total lovesick mess, just an ordinary girl with her heart tangled up. Girl, the very next day, he and Yuka kicked back and relaxed during the break, right in the middle of the... Right when the break hit, May stormed over and demanded to talk to him. He caught that Mai had just called him Sama, too, then they pushed him to talk somewhere way more private. And the kid couldn't help but wonder what on earth they were about to talk about. They started stripping, and he shot them a question, what are the two of you doing? Then, right in the middle of what they were doing, their power surged, and everything started glowing like it was about to explode. And they burst into two breathtaking beauties, like angels stepped straight out of the heavens. Angels stepped in and swore to the protagonist, this is who we truly are. Haruto leaned in and asked, are you spirits? The boy's wild gaze then. Thoughts started boiling in his head, and he completely lost the thread, until one of them snagged his attention. He jerked back to reality and immediately asked how he could help. Then it clicked, those weren't just guests, they were spirits, and that's why Undine connected with them so perfectly. They pressed him for a yes. Were they really going to seal a contract together? Both of them were totally crushing on Haruto's magic, so hard that the boy finally snapped and realized they were all falling for his spells. Magic, that was straight up awesome, because he already had Tina, and his whole mission in this world was to level up into a true hero and guard her no matter what. So the second he started teaming up with a spirit to crank his powers up, it felt ridiculously lit. May could crash into the human world with zero contract and even turn human. So yeah, there was no way these two were weak, and the boy was completely all in on sealing a contract with both of them. Right away, they begged for his permission, then sealed the deal with a kiss. When a contract gets sealed in the human world, the spirit rockets back to the spirit realm, then the human can summon them anytime they want. That boy could only hope school turned into the best time ever, and he was itching to crank up the magic of the summoning circle, so they'd stay longer and unleash way more power, while he frantically tried to recall the incantation for summoning. He'd summon both of them in one shot, if he could. Lost in thought, he caught May and Mai's light aura, then crushed it with a surge of his light spirit to slam the summoning shut. But out of nowhere, an old dude stepped in, not the girls. May were supposed to show up, so why did they stay missing? But then, out of nowhere, what burst forth was the king of celestial spirits. Haruto stepped in, introduced himself, and demanded, "So you're really the king of celestial spirits?" Then he couldn't stop thinking about it. When Mai and Mai get summoned, do they fuse into one? Then the old man beamed and told him it was an honor to meet him, because on that planet, he was the king of all spirits. It absolutely wrecked the protagonist, because standing there was a spirit he'd never seen in his life. But the old man snapped that he was stuck in the middle of something huge and begged the boy to help him bounce back to his spirit realm, while Haruto shot back, "Why can't I just go on my own?" Then the king snapped and declared, "From now on, you're in control of me," and everyone was stunned, because nobody ever thought anyone could summon him and force him to obey. The protagonist suddenly felt awkward, panicking that he might have drawn the circle way too big. Then the king leaned in and told the boy that something huge was going on with his daughters, and that fear pushed him to leave, so he bowed low and asked the boy for his okay. Haruto agreed to the old man's request, even though King of Spirits was something he'd never heard of before, because he simply couldn't refuse someone who bowed like that. The king loved the boy's answer on the spot and decided to shut this whole thing down fast. He kissed the boy, and in that instant the kid's mind ripped back a few years straight to their past. The moment he first tried to summon with magic, he told Tina, "Since this is my very first contract, I want a fire type." She told him to picture fire, so he did, and boom, Ifrit came roaring into the world. He shoved that blue Tina away, because it was his very first time summoning it. After the contract was sealed, Ifrit yanked him close, gripped him in his power, and kissed him, just to make the deal stick. That's when it hit him, remembering the time he struck a contract with Undine, and the exact same thing happened again. Right in this moment, his feelings snapped into place. He couldn't stop crushing on Tina, because that intense, super complex look on her face was impossible to ignore. Right in the present, the King of Spirits hurled himself into the portal, promising, "We'll meet again someday." So the boy called Mai, then May, one after the other, so nothing got mixed up. He just couldn't stop himself. He squeezed the summoning circle even smaller than the last time. Then he locked in on Mai's image in his mind, and with that sharp focus, he completed his summoning, brandishing a blazing fire spear. Without missing a beat, he somehow dragged Mai back into his world. As she raced through the air toward him, someone blared, "Mai, wait." In May, the King of Spirits, Mai's father, stepped out of the portal and stormed to face the kid who dared to try to make a contract with Mai. First things first, he had to prove his power to him right there and then. The two locked eyes and stared each other down for a heartbeat, and then the boy. The boy taunted the king, saying that if the ruler really wanted proof of his strength, he should just force him to kneel. When the old man tried to claw his way back to his world, Haruto flew through the portal after him, ready to corner him and call out exactly what he was trying to do. This wasn't going unanswered. The king. The king demanded to know why he was trying to cook up a meal in front of his daughter, and asked if he didn't think that was just a little too harsh. The boy told him the old man said, "Prove your power," and then admitted it was only then he realized it was the boy who'd been bound by a contract with his daughters. So Haruto, burning with curiosity, pushed back and asked if the king really thought he wasn't worthy to carry that contract for them. To his shock, the old man straight up told him he was more than worthy. He went on to claim someone like him could only be born into that world through the wishes of countless humans. Yet somehow the boy pulled him in all by himself, and just like that, he unlocked power so insane it felt unreal. Haruto leaned in and asked, "So, what conditions are there for that?" For him, the king declared it himself, then gushed that his daughters were so adorable that the moment he laid eyes on them, every ounce of pain and every problem just disappeared. He grabbed the boy's promise and swore that in the brutal battles ahead, they wouldn't clash. then told him if a monster of an opponent ever showed up, all he had to do was call him. Haruto told him to lift his head, promised to take care of both of them, and swore he'd come for his power the moment the time was right. The boy said summoning him won't happen instantly, so he'd get it started by feeding him a little mana ahead of time. The king froze in shock, because even after summoning him with mana, he still kept pumping out mana like it was nothing. And he was left staring into the void, dying to know what that boy was hiding. That night at the boy's mansion, Tina heard a burst of screams and tore out of the room to find out what was going on. As she swung the bathroom door open, everything changed. Or she spotted clothes strewn all over the place. The second she cracked open the shower stall, she demanded to know what it meant. The boy blurted out, fast and loud, that it wasn't what it looked like. Tina leaned in and blurted out, "So, what is it not asterisk looking like?" So what was happening there? One look from Tina, just a smile, turned the boy pale with fear, and it was scarier than any horror movie. Tina didn't just say Yuko was there. She swore that both of them had also been dragged to that mansion. May and May started to panic. Tina was getting under their skin, and they clung to their master like he was the only lifeline. Yuko saw her opening, pounced on the MC, and blurted that she was absolutely terrified. Haruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. None of it felt real. But he had to find a fast cure to calm Tina down, so he hit her up with a brilliant idea, ask her to join them. She chewed on the words slowly and her head went. When she was done, she whipped the clothes right into the boy's face, snapped that she was fine, and told them to go ahead, just the two of them. He just couldn't figure it out. Sure, they'd slept together, but she refused to bathe with him. And when Yuko climbed out of the tub, she smirked that usually the bigger guys come with the biggest cravings. And even as a nine-tailed fox, she still carried a childish spark. But she also owned her body, proudly letting it pull every eye to her. And May, yeah, the May you're thinking of, turned out to be one of those rare, shining gems, too. Even with three sweet people like them right there, he still pulled Miss Tina into the bath, and called that lust like it was nothing. Then he blurted out his side. He only meant to invite her to a cozy group bath. But the second he tried to talk, everything spiraled, and suddenly he was stuck trying to explain how he'd ended up in this absolute mess. All right, let's rewind the story for a second. While you're in the bath, of course. Yuko barged into the bathroom and told her master, straight up, that she wanted to come with her. Usually Tina gets in his way, but today would be the day she gave him babies. And she lunged onto the boy, already stripped and bare. Suddenly, a wall of ice erupted from nowhere, smacking her face dead on. The boy snapped that question, "What were Mai and Mai doing there?" Mai shot back, "I felt something off in your heartbeat, but don't worry now that we're here, everything's gonna be fine." May demanded what to do with Yuko, save her at the edge of death or crush her completely. But when fear hit, the boy told her to do nothing. He told them that place wasn't for throwing down, it was for washing up, so dirty shoes were strictly banned. Then the two agreed they'd tag along to enjoy it, and wash up with him too. Right as they started stripping down, Tina burst through the door. After that, Mai snapped that she'd finally shown her real colors, throwing on that fake cheer like it was a weapon. They got obsessed with Geratinho, then started measuring him against their dad's size like it was a mystery they had to solve. Ads normally in situ. Things like this would hit him way harder, but he's basically a saint. He can shape his mana, so that means he can control the mana in Hardtinho too. And that's the wild chain of events that's brought us to this exact moment. Right after Tina stormed out of the bathroom, he chased after her, kicking up urgency to finally talk. She was cooking, clearly annoyed, because even with Tina right there, the boy still went off to shower with other girls. She just couldn't wrap her mind around how he could still pull this off. Like they were still kids, and she was older than the other girls, yet somehow still pretty young for an elf. And the real question gnawed at her. Why in the world did Haruto never want to shower together? The boy watched her sulk and couldn't help but find it strangely interesting, while Tina was kicking herself for turning down his invite to shower with them. While peeking around, he nervously asked if she'd want to team up with him in the hot spring next time. Tina startled a little, then blurted out, "How much did you hear?" And Haruto answered, "Just a little." He leaned in and told her he didn't think she was old one bit, then basically admitted she was a total catch, straight up. That's how he made it crystal clear he'd caught every single word. Again, he leaned in and asked if she wanted to go to the hot springs, just the two of them. She got a little nervous about it being just the two of them. But in the end, she threw him a smile and said yes to his invite. He swore it was a deal, and then they'd cash in on the next free day. Haruto fired off the question, "So what are you guys gonna do with all these potatoes?" Potatoes, and it looked like they'd be crunching those for a while. Then he grinned and said it'd go way faster if all 5 of them ate together. Later, Tina's face went blank. She was totally lost when he brought up the five of them. Then the protagonist confessed that May and May were now his spirits, and he was seriously thinking about letting them crash in the guest room. After he promised it would just be the two of them at the hot springs, Haruto finally managed to get Tina to fully loosen up. At last, the day finally arrived. Tina said she'd meet him at the hot springs, and the countdown to fun was over. Because the second he invited her, she couldn't stop buzzing with pure excitement for this trip. Ever since yesterday, the moment she got a second to breathe, she bolted back to check on him, like her heart wouldn't let her ignore him. Honestly, she pulled this same move every single day, and kept stealing sneaky looks at him like she couldn't help herself. She stared at him, and for the first time, she could finally claim that boy all to herself, until her daydreaming snapped when she spotted a letter slipped under the door. The moment she opened it, a note from Haruto hit her eyes: meet him at the city center water fountain at 10:00 a.m. She's bursting with nerves, because this is her very first date with Haruto. And just like that, today was the day one of her wishes finally cracked open and started to come true. She showed up right on time, and the boy was already there, standing in an outfit that somehow made him look even more handsome, with eyes that screamed youth. She apologized for making him wait, and he brushed it off, saying he hadn't been waiting for long, not even close. Haruto winked and told her outfit was on point, saying she looked super cute today too. She was practically floating, all giddy over the boy's compliments. He gave her those sweet compliments, then he grabbed her hand and she just went along like she couldn't resist. Not knowing what to do, she couldn't even tell if her heart could survive all this wild, overwhelming excitement. The boy hurried Tina to the carriage, and Tina blurted, "Are we really traveling in that?" Inside, he asked if she liked it, and she lit up, calling it all beautiful, then quickly worried it might be too pricey. He told her that since it was their first date, he'd bring out the finest carriage this city had to offer. And when she caught that gorgeous smile of his, her knees nearly buckled. She told him, "As long as I'm with you, I'll be happy, wheelbarrow and all." And she realized he did all of that just because it was a date, and that was his way of showing her he cared about her more than anything. And just like that, he'd already earned her forgiveness for that bathroom fiasco from a few days back. Meanwhile, back at the boys' mansion, Yuko sat there bored to death without her master in sight, and Mai and May just kept it real. No more napping for her. They told her to get up and go crush the chores she was supposed to do. She said she burned through a pile of mana she had stored in her tails, and now she had to reel in some zeet fast. So she decided to sleep as much as she could, because if she curled up with her master again, her mana would bounce back way faster. While the twins got hungry and immediately remembered Tina had left food. They headed to warm up the food like Tina said, but May ignored the stove and lit it all up with fire magic instead. But she literally blew up the kitchen, and even woke Yuko up in the chaos. When she finally burst into the kitchen, she caught the two standing right there, staring at the pot. And the food inside had charred into black charcoal. She nearly crumpled into a mini depression, mourning the loss of Tina's mouth-watering curry. But she shrugged it off fast and promised she'd whip up an omelet for the newcomers. After that, Haruto and Tino wandered into the forest together, racing toward the hot springs. With monsters lurking in the shadows of the forest, Tina cracked her neck, stretched her arms, and braced herself to throw down the moment danger struck. The boy shot back that they were on a date, and he didn't want her getting her clothes messed up. To keep her safe, the boy snapped another night of fiery flames into existence. He told me he went monster hunting there yesterday, but he warned there could still be one lurking out there. Tina shot back that she truly appreciated his concern, because she was already level 250, ready to rip through dragons and jump into the fight if trouble showed up. When she looks back on every moment she had his back, it hits her like a wave. The MC leaned in and told her, "Let me protect you this time." She finally clocked it. She'd been the one looking out for him since he was a kid, and it honestly felt kinda weird, but now he's turning into an incredible dude. They finally burst into the hot springs, and Tina froze in disbelief because the whole place was totally empty. With a wicked grin, the boy swore he'd booked the entire place just for them. Right then, Tina finally realized. This is the very first time he'll lay eyes on her, right as she bursts into the world. Meanwhile, at the Silverly Mansion, Haruto's dad, always ready to back up his youngest son, got hit with a nasty shock. The bills were piling up fast. He snapped up the whole spot, just to be 100% safe. He cast a spell that slammed a blindfold over everyone's senses. So if someone peeked in from the outside, they'd see absolutely nothing. No hot spring, no hint of it. So Tina didn't have to worry a single bit. Every single day, she realized that the boy was getting more and more incredible. So she finally asked if it was all about privacy, and the MC admitted it was, because he didn't want anyone seeing her body except him. He asked if she wanted to head in together or split up, and when Tina suddenly chose together, he was completely blown away. Right when it was time to go in, Tina couldn't stop staring at him. He glanced back at him, and the boy admitted it felt kinda awkward being stared at. She picked him apart for every little flaw because she'd raised him since he was a baby, and she knew his body like it was her own. Every little detail, she could name it all, and she knew the boy inside and out. Lately, she couldn't get a good look at him, but somehow the kid's body kept getting more ripped, so. She started thinking, he always dresses so sharp so his skin has to be flawless. The moment her feet hit the water, a wave of calm crashed over her and made her feel way more. Her mana surged back like it was being slammed full again, charging through her veins. She lit up and told the boy it felt incredible, then grabbed the moment to thank him for bringing her there. He returned to give his thanks. Then the moment the words landed, Tina could only hope he'd finally turn his eyes her way. She waited for nothing, panic rising. Then she sprang forward and clung to him like her life depended on it. He started stumbling over his words, totally flustered, Tina. Tina leaned in and demanded to know if he planned on ever looking at her. Haruto pressed her, "Are you sure?" And she nodded with total certainty, yes. That urge to be noticed by the boy only burned hotter and hotter. The moment he finally locked eyes with her, he realized. He couldn't stop staring because she was insanely beautiful. Then he quickly apologized for it, only for Tina to laugh and say he could touch too, since that body was basically his anyway. She leaned in and asked, "So you can touch anywhere?" He went wherever he wanted, closed the distance, and planted a kiss on him. After that kiss, he admitted it had been forever since he'd been dying to touch his lips to hers again, like their first kiss had happened a lifetime ago. Tina went quiet because she'd already braced herself to examine every inch of him. Then this totally blindsided her. She rounded back like a guard, then marched right up to him and demanded with a grin that she wanted even more kisses. And so they just kept on kissing there, time melting away. Time ripped forward, and it was finally time to bolt out of the forest. Now he scrawled a magic circle on the ground, and Tina shot him a question. What was that supposed to do? Haruto said it was a teleport, because if they walked home, she'd be dripping sweat. So this way they'd get there faster with way less hassle. Teleportation is the wild power that lets you snap back to any place you've been before, instantly. No matter where you go, heroes who can pull off this kind of teleportation are insanely rare. But Haruto was a sage, so magic like that wasn't something he'd show off often. Tina just asked whether the protagonist could really. He teleported, and when asked if it worked, he nodded. Yeah, through a tear in space, I can jump straight to a place I've already set up with a magic circle. He snatched Tina's hand and charged straight into the heart of the magic circle. In the blink of an eye, they vanished from one spot and popped into another. Right when he showed up, he leaned in and asked her if she was hungry, because a huge restaurant was just around the corner. She blurted out yes because she couldn't stand the thought of leaving him, and then she snapped, "So what happened to that magic carriage that took you?" He took them, then shot back that he'd already sent it home, and the girl immediately asked if they'd do the same. Then he told her, "If you're up for it, I'm thinking we hit that village and have our stuff sent there. If you're not, I'll just teleport us home. No big deal." Biggie, she totally said yes, because tonight meant she could finally have Haruto all to herself. And so they crashed into the night together, soaking up every second of their "we're really a couple" bliss. Life, the very next day at IFRS Magic Academy, the adventure kicks off again. At the academy, everyone instantly clocked that something was seriously off with teacher Tina, and Haruto too. Ryushin was grinding through brutal training, determined to get his arm back in shape, thanks to his sister's magic, while she hovered nearby, watching his every move so he wouldn't turn into a total disaster. Draconians are humans with dragon blood pumping through their veins, and that's why their combat skills are unreal compared to every other human. If their numbers are small, humans get insanely cocky. They refuse to bow to anyone, only to the ones stronger than them, and once they choose a partner, they stick with them for life. Then boom, the dragon god flips the whole script, unleashing the dragon priestess system that remakes everything for the Draconians. Draconian ladies are blessed with divine protection, unleash terrifying hewing spells, and even heal every race, turning faith in the dragon god into something unstoppable. That faith supercharges the dragon god, wrapping dragons and Draconians in divine protection, turning them into the ultimate unstoppable race. And then bonus perk. Team up with powerful beings from any race, and you'll spawn some seriously legendary descendants. In this world, humans and every other race can mix, Their kids either fully inherit one side or become an awesome hybrid of both. And because the dragon god is guarding things, the priestess's children still pass down their dad's skills. This plan pushes the next generation even higher, keeping the Draconians reigning in the power game, while Ryuka, the current dragon priestess, carries the magic bloodline herself. Right before they stepped into Ifris Academy, she grabbed Ryujin and demanded one thing: keep it on record that he was her brother. The moment that was set, the hunt for her partner ignited. Then her own brother quietly locked himself in too, signing up for Ifris Magic Academy as her guardian. He leaned in and asked her straight up, once he fully turned into a dragon, could he actually survive Haruto's firelands? Ryuka couldn't stop wondering if Lance would actually live through a blast of fire magic. She leaned to her brother and warned him that if the boy pushed harder with his fire or water magic, she might finally have enough power left to resurrect him, if there even was anything left to bring back. If Haruto can pull off light magic at that level, Ryushin should back off fast, because that's her weak point. She thought, forget worrying about him and pay attention to Haru, whatever was going on. So he leaned in and asked her straight up, are you thinking about Haruto like he's part of you? Ruka leaned in and said she was seriously thinking about that guy. Like, totally. She said their mom had always warned her to stay away from humans, because their lives burn out fast and their bodies are painfully fragile. But once Haruto showed off that kind of strength, the whole race thing stopped mattering for real. Her brother called it out. Our lifespans don't match humans, so the clock's ticking way too fast for them. Yet she brushed it off and insisted it still wouldn't be a problem. Then her brother leaned in and asked, so after you finish your priestess duties, you're saying you'd be fine if Haruto kicked the bucket first, huh? She said she was sure they could figure out how to make the lifespan a little less brutal. Because yeah, it's tough, but there are real ways to extend a human life, and that's how her brother figured out that if Haruto could get strong enough, this might actually come true one day. But even with that problem out of the way, one thing still jammed the whole plan: Tina, because she couldn't take her down in the first place. Out of nowhere, she whacked her brother across the face, fully aware he was crushing on Tina. Cute, right there on the floor, she tried to patch it up, saying she thinks she's attractive too, and somehow that only made everything spiral even more. Worse, she boldly claims she's a catch, and that means she's got a real shot too. And Ruchin said it was painfully obvious Haruto and Tina were totally into each other. Yet she insisted it wasn't even a problem. Because he's human, and apparently humans can stack wives as many as they want. And just like that, she could totally end up being Haruto's wife, right there with Tina. Her brother went completely stunned and she shrugged like, yeah, humans are just animals like that. Still, with it all like that, she can keep right on doing her priestess duties, though her brother leans in and asks if that whole setup isn't kinda weird. She said maybe, but her thoughts wouldn't quit him. Her dragon priestess instincts were screaming for Haruto. When she recalls his magic, her heart slams in her chest, and she turns into pure jittery nerves. The moment he flashes that smile, she can't help but melt, thinking it's absolutely adorable. Ryushin chewed on all of it, because for Draconians, this kind of thing was straight up impossible. So he pushed her one more time and she didn't back down. She was really out there hunting for the boy. He told them that for the priestess's buddy, strength comes first. But she'd rather click with someone she genuinely likes, and that's why Haruto is her absolute pick. Her brother has been tasked with keeping her safe until she finds a partner. But he's got a lot more going on than that, because but there's no way he's lifting a finger to help her close the distance to Haruto, especially with her insisting she doesn't even need to. Anyway, they're trapped in that school for 7 long years, so Haruto's gonna get front row seats to watch the shy Ryuka finally make her move on him. Bruto, days just vanished, and Tina's class was scrubbing up while the other classes scrambled too, but Rushin. He bounced back and absolutely dominated the fights again, no shock at all. Draconians are the strongest humans out there, and as a black dragon, that pride of his burns bright. Ryuka figured he looked like a joke at times, but she knew the truth. He never stopped grinding, always locking in on training. Those 2 dragon bros' skills totally blew the student council away, so they grilled their assistant. Did Tina's class keep their room under control again? Connie didn't hesitate. Yeah, that draconian competitor, she's an absolute beast. That's how intense it gets. His other classmates never even get a shot to jump into the battles. Ever since that hot springs trip, Haruto keeps dropping into the mansion's bathroom to crash, sometimes with Tina there too. But sometimes, when he's finally alone, that piece flips into something else. It turns into a full-on party. Yuko jumps in too, and this time it's even wilder. Time flew, and Tina slammed into ice magic too. to trip the girl and slam the brakes on her dash for the bathtub. When the boy finally strips completely naked, that's when the contract holders can drink in the most magical power of all. Power, that's why Mai and Mai both tried to slip in during those exact moments. Haruto tells everyone to take turns snatching that magical power. But Yuko refuses to sit out, because she's not missing that moment, not even for a second. With Mei and Mei camped in the house, Tina's basically stolen every chance for Haruto nights. Because now there's no way she can even think about sleeping with him, and it's not fair. Tina asked Yuko to join the rotation, and the fox girl shot back, "Yeah." Then Tina pushed again. If she wanted equality, did she honestly think she could beat her? So the boy shot in and said this was his golden shot. He'd love to break down why Tina's been grabbing the spot to sleep without permission and getting special treatment. And the reason hits hard? He's into Tina, and to everyone's shock, the three instantly got exactly what he was implying. They accepted it without even blinking, and it left him completely speechless. Mei and Mei swore they could feel his heartbeat and read every flicker of his feelings. Because if you matter to a contractor, you matter to the spirit too. So Yuko even declared Tina's food is so good it's basically untouchable, meaning she can't go against her. Tina's eyes shimmered with tears as she thanked Haruto for that. After all that talking, the three refused to let the moment slip away, and they rushed the boy, ready to steal a piece of his magical power. So far, this kid's life in that other world has been going insanely well. A few days later, down at the Efres Magic Academy shopping district, Haruto and Tina zipped around, grabbing everything they needed for the house, shopping like it was mission day. That store is practically right next to the classroom. Big win. With everyone pitching in, they keep that room under control, and the class test was straight up fire for everyone except for. On top of that, he's been going wild in class fights. So wild that Rook and Haruto haven't even gotten their chance to clash yet, while he's busy plotting how to show off his strength for Tina. Nina, the student president, fully went berserk and slammed straight into her. He straight up apologized, admitting he'd been totally zoned out and didn't even notice her. Then he leaned in and fired off a compliment, telling Tina she looked a whole lot prettier up close. Then, right out of nowhere, he leaned in and blurted out his love for her. The words Haruto only barely managed to scrape together just yesterday. He cringed at the awkward start, then flashed a quick apology and introduced himself, along with his sharp-tongued secretary. Tina shot back, "Yeah, I know exactly who you are." And Rain beamed, "It's an honor to have a heroine at our school, so will you be the teacher for my class?" Haruto, already seething, snapped at him to calm down. Tina's his teacher for the next 7 years, and teacher swaps only happen if someone gets hurt or, worst case, kicks the bucket. Then Rain brought up a little-known teacher exchange program running at the school. Haruto's curiosity went wild. What was this thing? Connie leaned in and said it's a super rare system, and only the top tier from last year gets to apply. Guess who it was? Yup, Rains, and then through this trade deal, he was dead set on getting Tina as their teacher. He'd seized control of his class because he outperformed the teacher, and suddenly every magic lesson became painfully boring. And for the rest of his school years, he chased one dream, getting Tina Harrible, the legendary heroine, to teach his class. After he blurted, "I love you," to her, he wasn't chasing romance. He was riding straight on her fame wave. Haruto shot a question to the exchange teacher. Could he block it? The secretary said, "Sure, if you can beat the other side in a fight, then you've got the right to veto it." Rain hit him with the truth. Last year, they didn't drop a single class match. Haruto went all in. He swore he'd fight Rains himself just to protect Tina. As Luna wandered the busy market, she suddenly spotted the dolls. She used to slip into the orphanage every year on a donation schedule, because someone kept sending them help like clockwork. While she was busy checking everything, Haruto and Rook suddenly found her. They trailed right behind her, all geared up to sponsor everything she wanted to push that day, like they couldn't wait for the next big purchase. Haruto spilled the mess with Tina and Rain, saying a showdown between their classes is about to explode. So Luna fired back. Would it be a 2-on-2 with Haruto and Rook, and could they get some support? Haruto told her straight up that with every buff she drops, he almost felt sorry for the poor soul who'd be the one to take them head-on. So yeah, that was her one and only trick, and it meant she couldn't fight like the others, plain and simple. Then Rook jumped in and said their class's winning streak wasn't luck at all, it was powered by the boosts she kept feeding everyone. When they spotted two nobles hauling bags for a girl from an orphanage, right there in front of them. They couldn't stop laughing because Luna didn't care a bit about who had the titles. Rook has been getting special treatment since he was a kid, because his grandpa, a total beast, let him train hands-on. His grandpa went all in on training him, drilling magic into him day after day, teaching him how to blend different magical elements like they were ingredients in a secret recipe. Ever since he was little, the kid had always been wicked smart and fast to learn, but Grandpa kept pushing him to make sure he didn't stop there. He didn't just rely on the basics. Most people couldn't even handle lightning-type magic. The little guy practically begged Grandpa, saying he wanted to see even crazier magic and learn every single kind there is. One day he looked up and thought, I'm gonna be a legendary sage just like him. Grandpa was jacked up out of his mind and couldn't wait to show the kids something absolutely epic. He warned them, don't follow or leave him for anything in the world. He dug deep, unleashed his power, and burst out a radiant magical aura. Aura surged because the seed was lightning and the offering was his. His power sealed by the oath the him granted, and passed only to those who belonged to him. There his servants now unleashed this power. The old man thundered. Then he unleashed Supreme Thunder Boom, and the whole sky detonated in a massive explosion. The kid's jaw dropped. He couldn't stop raving that magic was straight up incredible. And then Grandpa. Pampas swore that supreme magic was the real cheat code. Master it, and he could wipe out a whole army alone. He leaned in and asked the boy if that scared him. And the kid shook his head, saying he wasn't scared at all because it was his grandpa, and he'd never dare to use his power for anything evil. Grandpa nodded hard, agreeing that the magic he taught is meant to shield the people he loves. Now he was cracking his inherited power wide open, ready to slam Rain's crew back and make sure Tina didn't ditch her class. Even after that brutal blow, Connie still refused to go, standing tall right there in front of him. Then Rook's confidence started cracking, like, what if he can't actually win this fight? To everyone's shock, nausea hit him out of nowhere, and he demanded they call it, throw in the towel. And the towel was tossed aside, leaving every onlooker stunned, scratching their heads like, wait, why did he just quit? Then they announced Rook as the winner, and everybody knew it was because his epic move was unreal. Epic magic lit up the scene, and Luna had her back ready, too. Then the judge asked if he wanted to keep going, and the boy snapped. I'm completely drained, stepping back to let it rest. As he leapt out of the ring, Gerudo snapped that Rook still had some juice left. Then Rook told his buddy to go all in for Tina. Then the judge shouted, Haruto, Rain, and called them to the ring for the next brutal showdown. Luna couldn't help but wonder if the main character would actually throw down against Solo. And yep, he absolutely would. Then the evil god's curse twisted his status so bad that even support magic couldn't land a single effect on him. One day, the boy swore he'd finally spill his secret to his friends, and they promised they were ready the second he did, no questions asked, as he headed to. At the ring, the boy leaned into Tina and swore that if she helped him take down the student council president, the walking legend herself, it would be absolutely epic, and Tina, all fired up, snapped that it'd be pure cruelty. Then the bull charged. The boy vowed to smash Rain, because the love he has for Tina won't let him back down. Nobody and Lifa were sprinting like their lives depended on it, because the next match was about to kick off. Distracted, she careened into a stranger by accident, and that's when everything went wrong. The moment she turned to apologize, she spotted that total jerk Edgar and started. They started grilling him non-stop about why he was there, But then it hit her. She was standing on the side cheering for Rain, and suddenly it made total sense why every other girl was clustered around her. She spotted every single one of them gripping that stuffed bunny tight, and the girls swore it was something the school set up, and fans hand out those plushies to him as gifts when it rains. At first, it was all flowers and sweets, until Rain promised he'd donate those gifts to the orphanage, and the plushie tradition suddenly exploded in popularity. Lifa still remembers the Valentine's Day, when he rolled in with a cart crammed full of them. The gym erupted in applause, and when they snapped their heads toward the noise, they saw Gerudo swaggering into the ring. Edgar could feel it. He was sure the MC was seconds away from unleashing a massive attack. Liafa and Melody sprinted straight toward the side packed with the boys' fans. Edgar couldn't stop thinking. Gerudo had already slain a demon all on his own. Rain crouched in the corner of the ring, shivering at the chill, while the crowd roared behind him from the school building. He told the MC that since Connie got beat by Rook, he'd swallow that loss and still show up for the final fight, because now he's fully locked in, ready to win. The entire class was screaming like it was a festival, hyping that boy up to the max, right as the battle was about to explode. Haruto suddenly recalled the rumors buzzing around. People swore it was going to rain. Both in name and in real life, he's the strongest one in the whole school. And he suddenly remembered that wild moment with Tina, when that magic stone shielded her like, what then? Armed with what he'd learned in training, he finally understood. This time in the forest, he never once poured extra magical power into Undine, and that's when he started. He kicked off the summoning out of nowhere, and his opponent never saw it coming. He screamed for the spirit's help, begging it to back him up in this brutal showdown. A barrier snapped into place, not just around the ring, but swallowing the entire arena. That snap of events jolted Edgar back to some rough memories, and with this barrier standing firm, Haruto finally got to unleash everything on his opponent. Earlier, Rain slammed the exact same barrier in his fight with Edgar, then tore it open to unleash every ounce of his power. When the protagonist unleashed his first strike, Rain slid right past it like it was nothing, then grabbed his attention. "Step it up," she ordered. And the wild part? He didn't even have to burn a drop of mana to forge that barrier. So this was about to end way sooner than anyone expected. After he attacked the boy, smoke billowed out of the hazy air, choking his vision, but Haruto suddenly popped back into the scene like the last moment never even happened. Rain couldn't believe it. After that first hit, he hadn't even been hurt, and our protagonist figured his opponent meant business, but when the attack landed, it barely even hurt him. All Rain summoned Ifrit to join the battle, and the spirit shot the boy an apology, then warned him, "Whoever summons him gets to run the show." The boy snapped his command to Ifrit, ordering it to blast Haruto with raw magic. The MC realized power still wasn't cutting it, so he clenched his jaw and vowed to crank it up step by step. As the battle raged on, Yuko fumed from the sidelines, then snapped, "Why aren't you going all out? Are you really holding back against the student council president?" She kept insisting that there was a time when he came dangerously close to hurting Tina. But the way you're throwing punches now, your hits won't even tickle Rain, and your energy's about to run out. Rain peeps at Haruto spamming spells like it's a TikTok challenge, and he doesn't even look tired. Meanwhile, your attacks land and he barely dodges. Nah, it's like you're mosquito biking in place and he's laughing through it. Rain totally sensed it. Something big was definitely going down over there. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, go on, hit it.